Chapter 1109. Hearing Su Yun's words, Gongsun Lang's eyes lit up. His heart jumped. He anxiously grabbed onto Su Yun's hand and asked anxiously, "What method? Brother, quickly tell me, what method is it?" Cough, cough, brother Gongsun. Let go of me first, Su Yun said uncomfortably. Hearing that, Gongsun Lang realized that he had lost his composure and immediately let go of his hand. But his mind was still on the immortal pool. He immediately asked, "Brother, just say it. Don't make me anxious. You always say half of your words. You must make me anxious to death." All right. I'll just say it directly. Su Yun exhaled and said directly, "Actually, brother Gongsun, you have an advantage that is stronger than others, but you do not know how to use it. Even if you're the candidate for the immortal pool, it does not matter. You can clearly find out about the immortal pool at the first moment, but you've always been here doing nothing. How do you not know that I also feel that it is a pity for you? If brother Gongsun is willing to put in even a little bit of effort, I'm afraid the current situation would not be like this, and brother Gongsun might not be talking to your foolish brother in this place." Hearing Su Yun say that, Gongsun Lang felt that there was a hidden meaning in his words, and immediately asked, "Brother, you mean I heard that brother Gongsun has an extremely good relationship with one of the fourth-level envoys. I wonder if this news is true or false." Su Yun went over and said softly, "This news is true." Gongsun Lang did not explicitly state who this lord was, and was obviously very cautious, but Su Yun already knew this lord's identity, so whether he said it or not, it did not matter. Since that's the case, then the fourth-level envoy must know about the immortal pool. "Why don't you go and get the news from him?" Su Yun asked. "Get the news from the lord's mouth?" Gongsun Lang was startled, then sighed and said, "Do you think I don't want to? But how could the Lord tell me about such a thing? That's simply impossible. I didn't say that you should ask directly. If you ask directly, the Lord will naturally not tell you." Su Yun smiled. "You can use other methods to obtain information." Gongsun Lang was not an idiot. How could he not understand what Su Yun meant? He did not get angry at Su Yun, but lowered his head and started to think. Seeing that, Su Yun smirked. After an unknown period of time, Gongsun Lang finally raised his head and asked, "Brother, this method of yours doesn't seem too good, right? Brother Gongsun, are you not confident in yourself? Or are you saying that you can't get any information about the immortal pond from that lord?" Su Yun asked. It's not that I can't say that I can't. It's just that my lord has been very kind to me. If he finds out that I've treated him like this, won't I die a horrible death?" Gongsun Lang said with lingering fear. "How could this be?" Su Yun glared and said sternly, "Brother Gongsun, you are doing this for the good of that master. Even if he finds out, he will not blame you." "What do you mean? Think about it. What is your motive for obtaining the celestial pond? If you can enter the celestial pool, you will definitely become a great deity. At that time, wouldn't you be able to help that lord even more? More useful to that lord? Isn't the lord the one who benefits in the end? Think about it again. The lord is in a high position, and there are many things that he can't do. For something like the immortal pond, not to mention the immortals outside, even the immortals in the immortal court are salivating over it. But many people don't dare to make any moves because of the strict immortal rules. But you're different. You are an envoy without a rank, and there are many things that you're not restricted by. Since the Lord cannot do this, why don't you do it? You're not only doing this for yourself, but also for the Lord." Su Yun said seriously. With that said, Gongsun Lang thought about it carefully. Actually, the logic was very straightforward. It was impossible for him to not understand it. But Su Yun understood that what he was worried about was not this, because what Su Yun said was risky. What he was truly worried about was the risk. After an unknown period of time, Gongsun Lang raised his head and said solemnly, "Brother, I feel that this method of yours is feasible, but I'm worried that if the matter is exposed, it will—" "Don't worry, you're not doing it alone. I'll help you." Su Yun immediately comforted him. "If I have you to help me, then I will naturally be more at ease." Gongsun Lang took a deep breath and said, "Since you've decided, then brother, when do we start?" "Naturally, the sooner the better. If the immortal court confirms the location of the immortal pond, I'm afraid that the few people who have been appointed will immediately set off for the immortal pond. If you don't enter the immortal pond before them, then everything will be meaningless and you won't have any more chances. All right, I'll go find the Lord now, Gongsun Lang hurriedly said. Find? Su Yin pressed him down and said, Don't be anxious. If you go over rashly like this, it will most likely be futile. This matter still needs to be considered in the long run, understand? Take your time. Brother, what do you plan to do? Gongsun Lang asked. Su Yin thought for a moment, then said, Brother Gongsun, since you want to find out about the immortal pond, you need to start from two aspects. First, you need to find out who is in charge of the immortal pond in the immortal court. Second, you need to sort out the immortal court strategy for the immortal pond this time. If you don't get these two pieces of information, just knowing where the immortal pond is obviously not enough. The immortal court's methods are strange, and you will never know what they're going to do next. In order to be absolutely safe, you have to do these two things. After all, if we fail, we will die without a burial ground. You're right, but what should I do now? Should I go straight to the Lord and ask for information? Don't. Su Yun rejected immediately. With Gongsun Lang's intelligence, what could he get out of him? He might even end up trapping himself. Then what should I do? Just eavesdrop. Eavesdrop? How can I do that with my cultivation? I have a treasure. If you can successfully place it in that Lord's cultivation place, we can rely on this magic treasure to eavesdrop on every word that Lord says. It's just that ordinary people can't enter the fourth rank, so I can't use this treasure either. If Brother Gongsun is prepared to take action, you can take this treasure. I believe that with it, every word that Lord says about the immortal pond will not escape our ears. Su Yun said, then took out a blood-red cloth from the space bag and handed it over to Gongsun Lang. Gongsun Lang's gaze was immediately attracted by the cloth. He was stunned for a moment, and his eyes felt like they could not move away. What is this? It's called the heart-listening cloth. Heart-listening cloth? It feels very strange. Where did you get it? This kind of thing is naturally from the true devil realm. Su Yin said. True devil realm? Gongsun Lang was shocked. That means this is a demon artifact. Demon artifacts are devil cultivators' things. Brother Gongsun, how could I dare to use this? Furthermore, this is the immortal court, so it's even more impossible for me to bring it in. Brother Gongsun, you're thinking too much. Su Yin hurriedly said. Then it's not a demon artifact? Gongsun Lang heaved a sigh of relief. He carefully took the red heart-listening cloth and looked at it carefully for a while. Seeing that there were no demon artifacts overflowing from it, he heaved a sigh of relief and said, Brother, is this thing really useful? How should I use it? It won't be discovered, right? This thing's concealment ability is very good. It doesn't have any chi on it. Other than being too conspicuous, nothing else will attract anyone's attention. If you casually place it in that Lord's cultivation place, it will be fine. All right then, I'll find a chance to send this thing over. Gongsun Lang nodded and said, go ahead. Come back early. I'll wait for you here. During this period of time, you can cultivate the great exquisite technique while inquiring about the immortal pond. All right. Gongsun Lang nodded and suddenly said with a serious face, Brother, if this matter succeeds, I will definitely not treat you unfairly. With brother's words, I'm relieved. Wait for my news. After Gongsun Lang finished speaking, he immediately turned and left the house. Seeing that, Su Yun smiled, sat down cross-legged, and started to meditate. Next, it was up to Gongsun Lang. Gongsun Lang's strength could not be considered strong, and his talent could not be said to be outstanding. Furthermore, his so-called connections in the immortal court were not accumulated by himself, but by that Lord. Su Yun really did not know why such a person who could not be considered smart would be chosen by the rank 4 envoy. His body was not a special physique. If he relied on himself to cultivate, he might not be able to become a great genius in the future. If that was the case, then there was only one possibility. There should be some special relationship between Gongsun Lang and that Lord. However, when he used the great exquisite technique on Gongsun Lang, there was no such relationship in Gongsun Lang's memories, so perhaps only that Lord knew. Su Yin thought about it, but could not think of anything, so he could only give up and continue to sit cross-legged. Previously, he had eaten a lot of Immortal Court pills, so he used this time to digest them. Not long after, Su Yun felt waves of heat coming from his body. Vaguely, there seemed to be signs of a breakthrough. Su Yun frowned. This was the Immortal Court. Breaking through here was not a good thing. Any strange phenomenon would attract the attention of others, and this was not a good thing for Su Yun's current situation. Let's suppress it for now, Su Yun secretly said, and stopped digesting the pill. Suppress? How many people want to break through, but can't? If you can break through, why don't you? Just then, Ling Qingyu, who was in the sword sheath, suddenly spoke. Hearing that, Su Yun was startled and suddenly thought of the sword sheath. That's right. Since he was worried that there would be a change in his breakthrough here, why not break through in the sword sheath? Thinking about it, Su Yun immediately took out the hidden sword sheath. Chapter 11:10. Although Sword Ancestor had been famous for a long time, not many people knew about his sword sheath. Su Yun was not worried that Gongsun Lang would see it, so he directly placed the sword sheath by the wall, then entered the sword sheath and entered the sword world. The world of the sword sheath was completely different from the Immortal Court outside. Here, even if Su Yun caused an earth-shattering commotion, no one outside would notice. After entering the world of the sword sheath, Ling Qingyu quietly stood on top of a snow-white sword discourse arena. The sword discourse arena floated in the air like a pure white cloud. Su Yun landed on top of the sword discourse arena and immediately sat down cross-legged. Ling Qingyu slowly walked over, glanced at Su Yun, and said indifferently, "Why did you suddenly absorb so much energy? Did you take the pill?" "Yes, not only did I eat it, I ate a lot," Su Yun said. "These are all pills obtained from the Immortal Court. They are indeed extraordinary. Before I could even absorb all of the medicinal effects, I could already feel the immortal veins in my body stirring, showing signs of transformation. The pills in the Immortal Court all come from a medicine department, and the Immortal Court's medicine department can be said to be extremely outstanding in the entire immortal world. How can you not have any reaction after consuming these pills?" Ling Qingyu said. Hearing that, Su Yun was slightly suspicious. "Qingyu, you seem to know a lot about the Immortal Court?" "Ugh, I just have nothing to do, so I understand a little about the Immortal Court. Furthermore, you have been interacting with the people of the Immortal Court recently. How can I not know anything?" "You don't need to know. What is it? Do you think I'm meddling in other people's business?" No, Qingyu, that's not what I meant," Su Yun immediately said. Ling Qingyu rolled her eyes at him, snorted and walked away. Her small face still had a look of anger that could not be dispersed, as though she was still angry about what happened last time. Su Yun did not dare to provoke Ling Qingyu at this time. Furthermore, time was of the essence. He did not plan to waste any time. So he immediately went into a meditative state, activated his immortal veins, and completely digested the effects of the pill in his body. As the medicinal effects in his body continued to evaporate, the temperature in Su Yun's body gradually rose, causing him to become hot. Standing at the side, one could see that his skin was already extremely red. But soon, the scarlet skin suddenly turned blue, and the temperature dropped rapidly. The signs were similar to the signs when he absorbed the evil core in the Eight Harmonies Gate. Crash! Just at that moment, two auspicious clouds suddenly appeared on Su Yun's left and right. One was scarlet red, like flames, and the other was deep blue, like the water of a cold pond. They were like fishes revolving around Su Yun. In the process of spinning, the two clouds slowly stretched out and finally turned into two different colored spirit dragons, circling around Su Yun's entire body. Every time they circled, a spiderweb-like aura would leak out from the spirit dragon and directly seeped into Su Yun's body. Su Yun breathed deeply. His body had also become extremely strange. The left side of his face was covered in sweat, but the right side of his face was covered in a layer of frost. Ling Qingyu, who was standing in the distance, frowned when she saw the scene. She slowly walked over. She walked very lightly, and every step she took did not make a single sound. Unknowingly, she was already standing behind Su Yun. Su Yun's breathing became more and more frequent. His nose was also extremely swollen, as though he could not breathe, and his body would sometimes tremble and sometimes swell up. It was extremely strange. Just then, Ling Qingyu suddenly raised her hand and extended out a slender jade finger, gently tapping on the back of Su Yun's head. The fingertip was like a lotus flower, instantly releasing a dazzling light aura. The light aura was like a ripple, sweeping towards Su Yun's entire body, quickly entering and disappearing. Then, Ling Qingyu slowly retreated, once again distancing herself from Su Yun, and stood at the side. After a moment, the two spirit dragons that were revolving around Su Yun directly entered Su Yun's body and disappeared. Su Yun's body released circle after circle of light. These light halos were sometimes blue and sometimes red. They were especially resplendent and lasted for about half an incense stick of time before completely disappearing. Su Yun seemed to have regained his senses from his meditation. He took a deep breath with all his might, and then slowly opened his eyes. Two rays of light shot out from his pupils. The light seemed to cover the entire universe of stars. One after another, star-like specks floated in the light, straight into the distance, as though they were connected to the entire sword world. Leveled up, Su Yun turned his gaze to his right hand and muttered. He did not feel any obvious changes in his body, but he clearly knew in his heart that he had broken through. This was a feeling that one did not need to deliberately feel to be able to see through everything, a kind of sublimation that was not obvious, but one was well aware of it. Fourth stage of the spirit profound, immortal realm. After all, Su Yun had only been in the immortal world for a short period of time. To be able to rush to the fourth stage of the spirit profound, immortal realm in such a short period of time, if this were to spread, no immortal would believe it. Su Yun, how do you feel? Ling Qingyu walked over from afar, but her voice was still very cold. Very good. Su Yun stood up and stretched his muscles. The realm after the spirit profound immortal realm is not only related to power, it is related to the state of mind, the world, and all living things. When a person reaches that realm, the direction of their advancement is no longer just to adapt to all living things, but to go the opposite way, to make all living things adapt to themselves. Let all living things adapt to themselves. Su Yun was startled. To put it bluntly, it is to make all living things submit to you, control all living things, and reach a realm that is equivalent to the Creator. Are you joking? Do you think that the current you, in a place like the Sky Martial Continent, can be called the Creator? Ling Qingyu asked. With that said, Su Yun was startled for a moment and became silent. Indeed, the current him was indeed an existence like the Creator in the Sky Martial Continent. But in the immortal world, he was as insignificant as a grain of sand. He carefully pondered over Ling Qingyu's words and fell into deep thought. Although Ling Qingyu's strength was not considered strong, her foresight and insights were always able to light up people's eyes. Sometimes, Su Yun did not feel that her cultivation was low, and the words she said might even be something that some immortals could not comprehend. Ling Qingyu, maybe I don't know enough. After an unknown period of time, Su Yun, Ling Qingyu, who was at the side, suddenly gasped. Su Yun was startled. He raised his eyes and looked. Qingyu, what's wrong? Someone's coming. Someone. Su Yun was confused, but quickly understood who Ling Qingyu was referring to. He immediately stood up and quickly left the sword sheath's world. Hua! A ray of white light shot out from the sword sheath's world, and then quickly transformed into a human figure. It was Su Yun. He immediately kept the sword sheath on the ground and looked. The seal on the door of the cultivation ground had already loosened, and not long after, the seal was opened, the door was pushed open, and a person walked in quickly. When Su Yun saw the person, he immediately put on a smile and welcomed him. Brother Gongsun, how is the situation? Gongsun Lang anxiously walked to the front of the table, spread out a small piece of cloth on the table, and then injected a bit of immortal qi into the cloth. Not long after, the cloth floated up and quickly folded in the air, turning into the shape of a mouth. The magic treasure has already been placed in Master's room. Now, if Master is talking about anything related to the immortal pond in the room, I'll be able to understand it clearly through this. Gongsun Lang heaved a sigh of relief and said to Su Yun, then moved his head closer to the red mouth and listened carefully. A moment later, a voice came out from inside. But just as the voice came out, Gong Sun Lang immediately kept the red mouth. He looked at Su Yun and said indifferently, "Brother, let's end it here for today. I'm tired too. You can go back first. I want to rest." "Rest my ass. If you don't want me to listen, just say it." Su Yun secretly snorted, but on his face he smiled and said, "Since it's like that, then this foolish brother will take his leave first. Brother Gong Sun, rest well, goodbye." With that, Su Yun immediately left the cultivation grounds. Seeing Su Yun leave, Gong Sun Lang carefully released the red mouth and activated it again. The red mouth immediately released a deep and resounding voice. "When I left, Master was talking to Lord Head Venerable. I believe that he will definitely talk about the immortal pond this time. I have to listen carefully. I can't miss this opportunity." Gong Sun Lang snickered in his heart and moved his ear to the red mouth. After a moment, Gong Sun Lang's expression became excited, as if he had heard something incredible. He secretly laughed as he listened carefully. However, he did not know that in the corridor not far away, a figure was also secretly laughing. Gong Sun Lang obtained the news of the immortal pond, which is equivalent to me obtaining the news as well. I never thought that this trip to the immortal court would go so smoothly. Su Yun muttered, his mind thinking about the future plans. Who knew how many powerful immortals were eyeing this immortal pond? How difficult would it be to take possession of it? Su Yun did not have any advantage, so he could only give it a try. Gong Sun Lang knew nothing about the immortal pond. All he knew came from that lord. But that lord was only a stage 4 envoy. Maybe he only knew a rough location, but he might not be able to completely grasp the immortal court's specific actions. If he could find out all the details of the immortal court's actions toward the immortal pond, then Su Yun would be able to completely grasp the initiative. And even if the opponent was the immortal court, he would not have to worry about anything. The rest of the matter was much simpler. Gong Sun Lang used the magic treasure that Su Yun had given him to pry for information, while Su Yun used the great exquisite technique to obtain information about the immortal pond from Gong Sun Lang. If the matter was exposed, if the immortal court wanted to investigate, they would only investigate Gong Sun Lang, and Su Yun could completely escape. So doing so was the safest. Su Yun stayed at Xiao Chua's place for 2 days, then went to where Gong Sun Lang was. Using the excuse of helping him calm his mind and imparting the great exquisite technique to him, he secretly used the great exquisite technique to pry into the secrets of the immortal pond. In a few days, Su Yun already had an idea. Chapter 11:11. Gong Sun Lang was still on guard against Su Yun. Su Yun had given him the magic treasure, and he had obtained the exact location of the celestial pond from a lord, but he had never told Su Yun about it. If Su Yun asked, he would only answer perfunctorily and not elaborate. Su Yun's question was just an act. In fact, he already knew that if he did not ask, it would arouse Gong Sun Lang's suspicion. "Brother, the immortal court should have already confirmed the location of the celestial pond. There are less than 2 days before the celestial pond opens, and that location is at least 4 days away from us. If we don't go now and let others get there first, it will be troublesome. Brother, should I go now?" Inside the house, Gong Sun Lang pulled Su Yun and said anxiously, "Is there any movement from the immortal court? I heard that they have already started to form an expert group. They plan to control the celestial pond first, and then wait for the various sects to send people to arrive before conducting a selection. The selected ones will enter the celestial pond and enjoy a spot. When will the expert group set off? It is said that it is almost there. In about 6 hours, they will be transported by a specific formation. They will be very fast and will arrive before the celestial pond opens. They are really fast. Brother, we received the news too late. Although I also have magic treasures, I can't reach the celestial pond in the southern region in such a short period of time. I'm afraid that if I set off now, by the time I reach there, it will already be controlled by the people of the celestial pond. If it is controlled by the immortal court, even if I know about the celestial pond, it will be useless. There is no need to rush." Su Yun smiled faintly. "Brother Gong Sun, you seem to have forgotten something." "Something? What is it?" "At the entrance of a celestial pond, there's a guardian beast. If the guardian beast is not defeated, no one is allowed to enter the celestial pond. This guardian beast is formed by the spiritual aura of the celestial pond water. It is extremely powerful, and it is not easy to deal with it. Actually, according to my guess, other than the immortal court, there should be other immortals who have found the location of the celestial pond. It is just that these people are most likely unable to deal with the guardian beast, so they are unable to enter the celestial pond. So that's how it is. There's no time to lose. Since time is of the essence, you should go ahead. I should also return to the immortal-seeking sect. It's not good to stay in the immortal court for too long. Brother Gongsun, I wish you a safe journey. Suyin stood up and cupped his fists. I'm going alone. Gongsun Lang was stunned. What? Do you want me to go with you? No, it's just that the people of the immortal court will definitely be there first. Even if they fight the guardian beast, I'm afraid I won't be able to enter, right? They're fighting with the guardian beast. You can sneak in while they're fighting. Wouldn't that be fine? That's true. The rest is up to you. Instant success. Su Yin patted Gong Sun Lang's shoulder and turned to leave. Gong Sun Lang was still sitting in the room, his eyes a little dazed. After an unknown amount of time, he seemed to have made some sort of decision. He stood up abruptly and walked out quickly. After leaving Gong Sun Lang's residence, Su Yin went to bid farewell to Xiao Chua and prepare to leave. The immortal court's actions had always been swift and decisive. However, even if they acted quickly, they would also formulate a series of meticulous plans. This organization was not lacking in talents. After leaving the immortal court, Su Yun headed straight for the Peerless sect. On the way, he finally met the people of the Peerless sect. Long ago, Su Yun had already asked Qin Xianlong to send a message to the Peerless sect in the name of the Hidden Dragon Hall. He asked Ao Wushuang to bring Qing Air to the immortal court and wait in the middle of the Peerless sect. At that time, he had not confirmed the location of the celestial pool. However, once the location was confirmed, it was a race against time. He could not waste a single second. Su Yin flew as fast as lightning. He was almost using his immortal qi to travel. When he reached the place where the people of the Peerless sect were waiting, his immortal qi had already been used up. Of course, his speed was also a few times faster. In less than half a day, he met up with Ao Wushuang and the rest. On a gigantic celestial cloud, rays of light shot out in all directions like shooting stars. Looking closely, one could see that the rays of light came from some of the arrays on the celestial cloud. On top of the celestial cloud, there were many figures. Around the cloud, there were many immortals. They were like guards, pacing around the cloud, as though they were patrolling. Su Yin looked from afar. He realized that it could be said that all the elites of the Peerless sect had been sent out. Even Ao Wushuang himself was present. He did not understand Ao Wushuang or the Peerless sect. He did not understand Ao Wushuang's thoughts. However, looking at the current situation, he felt that he owed the Peerless sect something. Su Qing Air possessed the body of a divine spirit. Not only did the Peerless sect use all their strength to protect her, Ao Wushuang himself was also meticulous. He did not covet the body of a divine spirit, but used all his strength to help her. Su Qing Air was not related to him. If it was an ordinary person, how could they do this? When Su Yun flew over from afar, the surrounding patrolling immortals immediately noticed his movements and immediately gathered over, shouting loudly, "Who are you? Stop immediately! I am Su Yun. Time is of the essence. Quickly move aside. I want to see your sect leader, Ao." From afar, Su Yun used his immortal power to produce a voice. The voice seemed to float back and forth in the sky, and Ao Wushuang, who was in the celestial cloud, could hear it clearly. "It's young master." Su Qing Air, who was in the center, also heard the voice and immediately shouted excitedly, "It's young master's voice. Sect leader Ao, young master is here. He's really here." Qing Air, don't be agitated. You shouldn't be too agitated right now. Although your cultivation has soared during this period of time, it is precisely because of your sudden increase in cultivation that your temperament is unable to keep up. You have to maintain a state of mind that is as calm as water at all times. Only then will you be able to keep your rationality and mind in order to not be in a mess. Do you understand? Shangwan Meiyang, who had long pink hair, immediately said. Hearing that, Su Qing'er nodded obediently. Yes, master. You guys wait here. I'll go out and take a look. Ao Wushuang said indifferently. With a leap, he suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already outside the celestial cloud, in front of the patrolling immortals. Seeing that Ao Wushuang had come out, Su Yun immediately stopped. The violent wind that he had stirred up did not stop. With an astonishing aura, it sprayed towards the celestial cloud. The huge celestial cloud that was filled with arrays and immortals was actually blown away by the violent wind. The patrolling immortals were also affected by the wind. One by one, they swayed unsteadily and almost fell down. Ao Wushuang did not move at all, but his brows were tightly knitted. This aura, this guy's strength, seems to be much stronger than the last time we met. Although he used a magic treasure to hide his cultivation, and his cultivation doesn't seem to be high, but why do I have a feeling that I can't see through him? Ao Wushuang frowned and did not say anything. Su Yun flew over and bowed respectfully to Ao Wushuang. Su Yun greets sect leader Ao. Ao Wushuang nodded and looked at Su Yun from head to toe, then said indifferently, What are you doing here? I remember that the one who informed me to come here was Hall Leader Qin. He said that he could solve the problem of Su Qing'er's divine body for me once and for all. Why are you here? The relationship between the Hidden Dragon Hall and the Peerless Sect is not considered close. Why did Sect Leader Ao listen to Sect Leader Qin's words and dare to take the risk to bring Su Qing out? Su Yun asked. Although I, Ao Wushuang, am not considered a great expert in the immortal world, I still have some ability to judge people. I can tell if Hall Leader Qin is lying to me or if he will set up an ambush. Oh, Su Yun laughed. Didn't he tell you that I'm here to receive you? Receive? To be exact, I'm here to receive Qing. Where are you taking her? The celestial pool, Su Yun said in a low voice. As soon as he said that, Ao Wushuang's heart suddenly jumped. He could not believe what he had heard. What did you say? Where are you taking Qing? Even Ao Wushuang could not remain calm when he heard Su Yun's words. The celestial pool, Su Yun replied again. This time, Ao Wushuang was sure that he did not hear wrongly. He paused for a moment and said, Do you know where the celestial pool is? I roughly know. How did you find it? Su Yun hesitated for a moment and said, The celestial court. The celestial court? This time, Ao Wushuang was no longer shocked, but trembling with fear. He got the news from the celestial court? This guy, who exactly was he? What kind of existence was the celestial court? Ao Wushuang was actually quite clear in his heart. After all these years, he had dealt with the celestial court a lot. Although the Peerless Sect had some strength in front of the celestial court, it was still small and insignificant. Ao Wushuang was silent for a moment, then said in a low voice, If Su Qing enters the celestial pool, with the magic of the celestial pool, she will definitely be able to raise her cultivation to the peak. Not only that, her current state of mind will also be able to be alleviated. I believe that before long, she will be able to successfully reincarnate and return to the peak of the Almighty. At that time, no one will have any more thoughts about her. At that time, she will no longer have a divine body. This is indeed a way to solve the problem once and for all, but even if you know the location of the celestial pool, what can you do? Do you plan to bring Qing to the celestial pool alone? Does sect leader Ao think that I do not have the ability to do so? To put it bluntly, yes. Ao Wushuang said bluntly. Su Yun smiled, but was not angry, and said directly, Sect leader Ao, time is of the essence. Let's end our conversation here. When I have time in the future, Su Yun will personally visit sect leader Ao. Please let Qing out. I will set off now and head to the celestial pool. Ao Wushuang hesitated for a moment and finally nodded his head and waved his hand behind him. Not long later, Su Qing'er's figure appeared in Su Yun's line of sight. Chapter 11-12. Seeing Su Qing'er, Su Yun heaved a sigh of relief. In fact, he was still a little worried that Ao Wushuang would not let Su Qing go. After all, he still could not guess Ao Wushuang's thoughts, but seeing how easily the other party let Su Qing out, it was enough to show that Ao Wushuang was not the kind of person who would plot against the divine body. Seems like I'm thinking too much. Su Yun heaved a sigh of relief and revealed a smile. Young master. When Su Qing saw Su Yun outside, she was extremely excited and immediately rushed over, throwing herself into Su Yun's embrace. Qing. Su Yun called out softly. He extended his hand and caressed Su Qing's head, his face filled with love. I never thought that I would be able to see young master here. Young master, how'd you been all these years? Where have you been? Qing, misses you very much. Su Qing's eyes were red. She had thousands of words in her heart, but it was difficult to spit them out in such a short period of time. Qing, let's not talk so much first. If you have anything to say, let's talk on the way. Follow me first. I'll bring you somewhere. Su Yun said. All right. Qing nodded obediently, then pulled Su Yun's hand and prepared to leave. Wait, Su Yun. Right at this moment, Ao Wushuang suddenly shouted from behind. Su Yun's body froze. He turned to look at Ao Wushuang, only to see him pursing his lips, and said indifferently, Are you sure you want to go to the Immortal Pond? I'm sure. Bring Qing there. Does sect leader Ao have anything to say? Su Yun felt that Ao Wushuang seemed to have something to say, but it was difficult for him to say it. He was silent for a moment, then turned his head and shouted at Shangguan Meiyang, who was still looking at Su Qing and Su Yun. Meiyang, come here. Yes, father. Shangguan Meiyang felt that it was strange, but she still walked out from the crowd. The people of the Peerless sect looked at each other. All of them were confused. Shangguan Meiyang's eyes were filled with suspicion. She walked in front of Ao Wushuang, only to see her father suddenly pulling her hand and pushing her to the front. Su Yun looked at Shangguan Meiyang. He vaguely guessed something, but did not say anything. Ao Wushuang spoke. Su Yun, I believe that the relationship between you and Qing is inseparable, unbreakable. A sharp blade can't cut it. A sharp axe can't split it. Right? Su Yun nodded without hesitation. Qing hands could not help but tighten. If that's the case, then I believe that you will not let Qing fall into danger, and will not let yourself fall into a dead end. Ao Wushuang said solemnly. I don't know who you are, nor do I know what your relationship with Qin Qianlong is, but I can feel that you should have your own methods, your own power. Since you have made this decision, then you will definitely not harm Qing. Although the celestial pool is dangerous, I guess you have most likely prepared a way out. So, then I, Ao Wushuang, have a presumptuous request here. I hope you can agree. Sect leader Ao wishes for me to bring Miss Shangguan along on this trip to the Immortal Pond, right? Su Yun said indifferently. That's right. Ao Wushuang immediately nodded his head and said bluntly, In the past, there was a small misunderstanding between Qing Cheng and me, causing her to bring her children to live in the Sky Martial continent, suffering a lot, and also suffering a lot. I owe Qing a lot, and also owe Meiyang a lot, although our family has been reunited now. But the arrival of Meiyang made me happy and also worried. For my daughter to be able to accompany me, I can't sleep, but her strength is too weak in a place like the Immortal Realm. With her strength, it will be difficult for her to protect herself. Even though I have allowed her to consume countless heaven and earth treasures, and even passed on my cultivation to her, raising her cultivation, but to raise an ordinary spirit cultivator to the Immortal Realm, this is an extremely difficult matter. At least the current me cannot do it, but if I have the miraculous effect of the Immortal Pond, the situation will be different. Even with Mei Yang's cultivation, she will definitely be able to use the miraculous power of the Immortal Pond to ascend to the heavens in a single step and become a great immortal. I do not ask for her to be outstanding, at least to be able to protect herself. That is enough. My current wish is for her to be safe. Su Yun, if you don't find it troublesome, can you agree to my request? Bring Meiyang along? Saying that, Ao Wushuang actually took a step forward and cupped his fists toward Su Yun. Seeing that, Su Yun was startled. The surrounding disciples of the Peerless sect were also startled. Shangwan Mei Yang was even more stunned, her mind blank. Who was Ao Wushuang? Ao Wushuang was the sect leader of the Peerless sect. Even though the Peerless sect was not considered a top sect in the immortal world, Ao Wushuang was still a reputable figure. He was a proud person and would never lower his head to anyone. Even if the other party was stronger than him, he would not yield. But now, for the sake of his own daughter, he was going to bow to an unfamiliar immortal. Was he begging the other party? Father. Shangwan Mei Yang could not hold it in any longer. Tears welled up in her eyes, and with a cry, she crashed into Ao Wushuang's embrace. At this moment, Shangwan Mei Yang felt something that she had always known existed but could not feel: fatherly love. How sacred! Ao Wushuang's body stiffened, but in the end he still placed his hand on Shangwan Mei Yang's back, gently hugged her, and whispered, "Mei Yang, I owe you and your mother a lot, and I have let you and your mother down. All these years you have suffered. Father, I'm not wronged. I am just." As Shangwan Mei Yang spoke, tears could not help but flow down from her eyes. "Don't say any more, child. Listen to me this time. The immortal world is a very chaotic place. The Peerless sect is not the Overlord sect. To survive here, you need to have a strong cultivation. With your current strength, if you go out alone, you will definitely be captured by the immortals to be used as ingredients for concocting pills. So, I must think of a way to increase your strength. I don't want strong strength. Staying in the Peerless sect is already very good. But the immortal world is not as peaceful as it looks on the surface. I can't protect you forever. You still have to rely on yourself." Ao Wushuang sighed. Hearing that, Shangwan Mei Yang cried even more fiercely. Although Shangwan Mei Yang looked like a little girl, her state of mind was actually very mature. But no matter who it was, no matter how successful, no matter how capable, in front of her parents, she was still a child. When Suyin saw this scene, his heart felt as if it was being tugged at. All kinds of feelings. He thought of his parents that he had not met yet, and then thought of Su Shuntian and Shun Shue for a moment. He could not help but sigh. Sect leader Ao, your Peerless sect has done your best to protect Qing'er. This kindness, Su Yun has long remembered. This matter, how can I not agree? Since sect leader Ao trusts Su Yun and has entrusted Miss Shangwan to me, then Su Yun will definitely protect Miss Shangwan and bring them into the immortal pool. Su Yun said, "If that's the case, then I'll have to trouble you." Ao Wushuang nodded, then let go of his hand and said to Shangwan Mei Yang, "Mei Yang, you can go." Shangwan Mei Yang also understood Ao Wushuang's meaning. In fact, she also yearned for strength in her heart. Since it was her father's decision, she did not intend to refute, so she obediently nodded her head. "Father, then take care. I will wait for you to come back." "Yes." Shangwan Mei Yang quietly wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes, turned around and stared at Su Yun with her red eyes. Su Yun glanced at Shangwan Mei Yang, but did not say anything, but Qing'er quickly went over to comfort her. "All right, time is of the essence. Let's not delay any further. If you have anything to say, we'll talk on the way. Let's go." Su Yun said indifferently. The two girls nodded and immediately followed Su Yun forward. Ao Wushuang stood quietly, watching the three of them leave. Very quickly, the cloud that the Peerless sect people were on disappeared behind the three of them. But after flying for a while, Su Yun stopped. "What's wrong?" The two girls following behind could not help but ask Su Yun. "This is too slow," Su Yun said as he took out the sword sheath from his waist. "Too slow? Do I need to activate the immortal qi?" Qing'er has the protection of the divine spirit body. At this realm, there are almost no obstructions in her cultivation. If not for the fact that her mental state is difficult to keep up, she might be able to directly rush into the spirit god realm. The current her can be considered a strong expert. But Miss Shangwan, you can't. Your cultivation is too low. If you rush like this, I'm afraid it will take at least 5 or 6 days to reach the location of the immortal pond. Su Yin said indifferently. Hearing that, Shangwan Mei Yang was shocked. The current Qing'er is already considered an expert. She has long entered the spirit profound immortal realm. I do not know what stage she is at, but it is definitely not low. But how did you see through Qing'er's strength? Qing'er should be at the 5th to 6th stage of the spirit profound immortal realm, but her realm is fake. It is just a name. Although she has entered this realm, she is unable to unleash the strength that a person of this realm should have. How can I not see through it? Su Yun said indifferently, then turned to the two girls and said, "Relax your entire body." The two girls were startled, but they did not refute Su Yun's words, and immediately did as he said. However, just as they finished, Su Yun immediately raised the sword sheath and covered the two girls' heads. A white light came out from the sword sheath, and like a wild beast's mouth, it swallowed the two girls. In the blink of an eye, the two girls disappeared and were sucked into the sword sheath. This place? Su Yun, what did you do? Shangwan Mei Yang shouted in panic. Don't worry, this is the sword sheath's world. I don't have time to explain it to you right now, but there's a lady called Ling Qingyu inside. She will explain it to you. All right, enough nonsense, I have to hurry. Su Yun shouted at the sword sheath, then hung it on his back, activated all of his immortal qi, and rushed towards the southern region of the immortal world. Chapter 11:13. The location of the immortal pond was still quite a distance away from Su Yun's current position. If Su Yun rushed there day and night, he would probably be able to reach it in less than a day. But there was a price to pay, and that was that his immortal qi would be immediately used up. Even if he rushed there, he would not have any immortal qi to use, and if he wanted to recover his immortal qi, it would take a lot of time. He stuffed pills into his mouth as he sped forward. Although that was the case, he still did not want to give up. It was too late to think of other ways, so he could only fight it out. In the blue sky, only an afterimage could be seen. It was still an afterimage left behind by the white clouds as he charged forward. Half a day later, Su Yun's immortal qi was already very low, and it was extremely difficult to maintain his speed. Qing! He panted heavily as he shouted into the sword sheath. Young master, what's wrong? Su Qing'er's voice came out. You come and help me, Su Yun said as he could not hold on any longer. Su Qing'er was also intelligent and understood what Su Yun meant. When Su Yun opened the sword sheath, she immediately flew out and took over Su Yun's sword sheath, while supporting Su Yun, who was on the verge of collapse, with her other hand. Young master, it's been hard on you. Leave the rest to Qing, Su Yun said gently. Su Yun nodded his head. Without wasting any more words, he turned into a ray of light and entered the sword sheath. Su Qing'er immediately hugged the sword sheath with both hands, activated her immortal qi, and rushed forward. In terms of grade, Su Qing'er's current cultivation far surpassed Su Yun's, but in terms of strength, Su Yun could fight at least 10 Su Qing'er in her current state. However, the immortal qi in Su Qing'er's body was not weak at all. At the very least, it would be extremely easy for him to travel the rest of the way. After entering the sword sheath, Su Yun's body swayed as he flew towards the sword discourse arena. Shangwan Mei Yang looked around uneasily, and at a place extremely far away from her, Ling Qingyu, who was dressed in white and barefooted, was sitting on the ground, her face filled with dissatisfaction as she stared at Shangwan Mei Yang. Su Yun, you're here. Probably because she was being stared at by Ling Qingyu. When Shangwan Mei Yang saw Su Yun flying over, it was as if she had seen her savior, and anxiously went forward to welcome him. But just as she approached Su Yun, who had landed on the sword discourse arena, staggered and fell forward. Seeing that, Shangwan Mei Yang was startled. Before she could even reach out to support him, she was pressed down by the tall and strong man. She staggered back a few steps and was about to use her qi to push him back, but when she saw his pale face, she didn't dare to use her qi in fear of hurting him. Suddenly, Shangwan Mei Yang cried out softly. Her face instantly flushed red, her body trembled, she lost her balance and fell to the ground. The two of them rolled together, stuck together, unable to get up again. Upon seeing that, Ling Qingyu's eyes widened. The current Su Yun was pressing down on top of Shangwan Mei Yang's delicate body. Her pink hair was in a mess. She closed her eyes tightly, not daring to look. Her face was already so red that it was dripping with blood. Su Yun, on the other hand, half opened his eyes, gasping for breath as he looked at Shangwan Mei Yang below him, And what made Ling Qingyu even angrier was that his right hand was currently completely covering Shangguan Mei Yang's chest. Shangguan Mei Yang was startled. Only then did she feel the difference in front of her chest. Her small face immediately became strange. Her pink lips trembled uncontrollably, her eyes wide open. "You guys!" Ling Qingyu called out with a trembling voice. "Ugh!" Su Yun then realized that something was wrong and immediately stood up, but he was too weak, and when he stood up, he almost fell down. Seeing that, Shangguan Mei Yang actually laid on the ground, not daring to move at all. No matter how thick-skinned Su Yun was, he would still feel embarrassed at this time. He rubbed his nose and said awkwardly, "Miss Shangguan, I'm sorry, this was an accident." Shangguan Mei Yang's eyes were still wide open, and after a long while, she slowly crawled up, but her body was still trembling slightly. Obviously, she had not recovered from the accident just now. Shangguan Mei Yang did not say a word. She quietly walked to the side and sat down, but her head was extremely low. No one knew what she was thinking. Su Yun coughed to hide the awkwardness, of course. He also felt an extremely stimulating gaze coming from the side. He did not look at the owner of the gaze, but instead sat down cross-legged and meditated. How could Ling Qingyu not know what Su Yun was thinking? She snorted, her small hands hugging her breasts. She turned her head and looked into the distance, too lazy to look at Su Yun anymore. At this time, silence was naturally the best choice. Su Yun secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He slowly adjusted the immortal meridian in his body, soothed the immortal eyes, and allowed them to have more energy to produce more immortal qi. After breaking through, the immortal eyes and immortal meridian were even sturdier than before. If it was in the sky martial continent, the immortal meridian in Su Yun's body would be enough to split open a mountain. But in the immortal world, this level of strength was clearly not enough. His body glowed with light, and his pale face became much rosier as time passed. The light was extremely dazzling, as though his entire person was about to ascend. Shangguan Mei Yang, who was at the side, felt this slightly dazzling light, and could not help but raise her eyes to look at Su Yun. "What's going on? What is Su Yun doing?" Shangguan Mei Yang could not help but ask. "He's recovering his immortal qi." Ling Qingyu glanced at Shangguan Mei Yang and said indifferently, "Recover immortal qi?" But what was going on with the surging immortal qi around him? Is this the immortal qi in his body? If that's the case, then how much immortal qi does he have in his body? Shangguan Mei Yang could not believe her eyes. She could feel the immortal qi floating around Su Yun. The immortal qi was so dense that even Su Qing'er could not emit it. According to what Su Yun had said before, Su Yun's cultivation should not have exceeded the 5th stage of the spirit profound immortal. But why did he give her such a feeling? Shangguan Mei Yang's eyes were a little confused. She realized that she could not see through this guy anymore, after an unknown period of time. The halo on the surface of Su Yun's body started to dim, and not long after, he exhaled and opened his eyes again. "How do you feel, Su Yun?" Ling Qingyu said indifferently. "Very good," Su Yun replied awkwardly. Although Ling Qingyu had taken the initiative to talk to him, he had a guilty conscience in his heart, so he was naturally very guilty. The qi in this sword sheath's world is almost tailor-made for you. If you recover your qi here, the spirit qi that is filled with the sword world will cooperate with you to absorb it. Although it is the immortal world outside, to you, this is the best place for you to recover." Ling Qingyu said coldly. Hearing that, Su Yun was shocked. "Qingyu, why haven't I heard you mention it before? Furthermore, I have never felt the mysteries of this sword sheath's world before." Unexpectedly, after saying that, Ling Qingyu hesitated for a moment, then sighed. That's because the change in the sword world happened recently. Ling Qingyu's expression was not right. Su Yun's heart was slightly shocked, and he asked softly, "Qingyu, did something happen? You don't need to know so much for now. Hurry up and tell me. You should take care of the immortal pool first. Since there's something going on, you should at least let me know. Otherwise, if you keep me hanging, I won't be able to handle the matters at the immortal pool well, and I will still be distracted." Su Yun said stubbornly. Ling Qingyu understood Su Yun very well. She knew his personality. If she did not say anything, he would only be more worried and distracted. She thought for a moment, then said in a low voice, "The birth of the sword sheath's world is to suppress that world-destroying sword, and its change is naturally for that world-destroying sword." Evil sword? Sword? Su Yun frowned. Recently, the evil sword has been loosening up too much. The sword in the sword sheath almost spontaneously released its own sword force to suppress the evil sword. No wonder when I used the death sword recently, I feel that it's not as easy as before. As the lead sword, the death sword naturally bears the greatest pressure. Its sword force is being consumed too quickly, and after being forcefully taken out by you, the power it can unleash is probably not even comparable to the previous 3 levels. The reason why you're slow to notice it is because your strength has increased too quickly. How is the evil sword now? It's temporarily suppressed. You don't have to worry. It's being suppressed now, but it can't be suppressed forever. The sword force of these swords will be used up one day. If this continues, the evil sword will break free from the restraints of the sword sheath and reappear in this world. Qingyu, tell me how to continue suppressing the evil sword. Do you want to collect other famous swords and stuff them into the sword sheath? Su Yun said solemnly. The evil sword destroying the world. No matter who it was, Su Yun did not want to see it. Even if it was not for the greater good, just for himself, he could not ignore this matter. Furthermore, the evil sword was by his side. If it were to explode, no one would be able to save him. Although it's possible to fill in the famous swords, it's too late now. The swords in the sword sheath are almost considered a whole body. Even if you find other powerful famous swords to fill in the sword sheath, I'm afraid it will have the opposite effect. Not only will it have no effect, it will even cause the other divine swords to resist. Ling Qingyu shook her head. Right now, the arrangement of the swords in the sword sheath is like a gigantic sword formation, and in the center of the sword formation is the evil sword. No matter which sword you put in, it will definitely destroy the sword formation's power. Then why did I take out the sword? You taking out the sword will indeed have an effect, but it's not that big. It's just that as you continue to take out the sword, the seal on the sword formation will loosen. This is also why I told you not to use the sword sheath as much as possible, because the evil sword's evil chi is becoming more and more violent. Hearing that, Su Yun frowned. He closed his eyes and thought for a moment, then finally exhaled and said softly, "Seems like I have to contact the sword ancestor as soon as possible." Chapter 11:14. Compared to the limitless sword sheath, Su Yun believed that sword ancestor would definitely understand more than him or even Ling Qingyu, especially regarding the matter of the evil sword. If it was him, he would definitely have a way. Let's put the matter of the evil sword aside for now. Su Yun, you should quickly recover your chi. I think it won't be long before Qing'er uses up all of her chi. You have to deal with the people from the Immortal Court and the other experts. If the immortal chi is not abundant, then it will be over. Ling Qingyu said. Su Yun nodded. He did not dare to speak anymore. He immediately sat down cross-legged and continued to recuperate. Ling Qingyu glanced at Su Yun and actually walked over. Stepping behind Su Yun, she extended her white hand and pressed it on Su Yun's back. Su Yun was startled. He suddenly opened his eyes, looked at Ling Qingyu, who was behind him, and asked, "Qingyu, what are you doing? Your immortal chi has been consumed too much, and you will not be able to recover in a short period of time. I have been cultivating in the sword sheath for this period of time, and the chi in my body is abundant, so I will pour into your body to help you recover faster. Although my cultivation is not high, and my chi is not pure enough, it will still be of some use." This, Su Yun wanted to reject, but just then, Ling Qingyu spoke out again. "If your chi is not enough, and we meet with an accident later, then none of us will be able to escape. Su Yun, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for myself, understand?" Since Ling Qingyu had already said that, what reason did Su Yun have to reject her? When the chi entered his body, Su Yun immediately felt warm all over. The chi was not considered dense, but it was extremely comfortable, and when it flowed into the immortal meridian, it was like a clear spring. After a moment, Ling Qingyu raised her hand, and Su Yun started to recuperate. However, a shocking scene appeared. He realized that his immortal eyes seemed to have been stimulated by something, like a fountain. They frantically sent immortal qi into the immortal meridian. The immortal qi was endless, thick, and huge. In the blink of an eye, most of the immortal meridian in his body was filled. Su Yun was stunned. He could not explain this strange phenomenon at all. Su Yun, what's wrong? Ling Qingyu, who was at the side, asked. Su Yun looked at his own hand. His eyes lost focus. After a moment, he shook his head and said, I don't know why, but the immortal qi in my body is suddenly full. Really? Hearing that, Ling Qingyu smirked and said, What did I say before? This sword sheath's world is indeed extraordinary. Those sword energies are just right for you. Absorb them well, and you might even be able to break through. Is it because of the sword force emitted when the divine sword suppressed the ominous sword? Su Yun muttered, but he could not figure it out. But since he couldn't figure it out, he didn't bother thinking about it. He stood up, took out a few pills, and swallowed them. Then he waved his hand, and the space in front of him distorted. An image appeared in front of him. It was the image of what was happening outside the sword case. At the moment, Su Qing'er was still frantically rushing forward. The clouds around her were almost shapeless, but her forehead was covered in perspiration. Her small face was as pale as paper. Her small mouth was slightly open, and she was already gasping for breath. Su Yun stared at Qing'er's eyes for a moment, then said softly, Qing'er is about to be exhausted. I believe that we should not be far from the location of the immortal pond. Qingyu, Miss Shangwan, you two stay here. I will go and change Qing'er and leave the rest to me. With that said, Su Yun leaped out of the sword sheath's world. Not long after, Su Qing'er fell in. Seeing that, Shangwan Meiyang, who was in the distance, immediately flew over, caught her, and slowly placed her on the sword discourse arena. Everything was as Su Yun had expected. Su Qing'er's speed and efficiency did not disappoint Su Yun. When her qi was about to be exhausted, Su Yun was already close to the immortal pond. This area was called the Cold Cloud Star Group, and it was a secluded area to the south of the immortal world. There were no immortal sects nearby, only 2 immortal cities for scattered immortals. It was said that the clouds in this area were like ice, hard and cold, and even immortals would not be able to endure it if they touched the ice clouds. Ordinary immortal clouds could actually pass through, but thick clouds were extremely difficult to pass through, and ice clouds were even more impossible. In this cold cloud, there were even a large number of flowing stone stars. These stone stars were affected by the magnetic field that appeared out of nowhere in the area, and collided everywhere in the ice clouds, like arrows flying randomly. What made the immortals curious was that the ice clouds were like air against the stone stars. They were able to freely travel through the ice clouds, and it was impossible to guard against them. The penetrating power of the stone stars was extremely strong. Anyone below the 5th stage of the Spirit Profound Immortal stage will be able to directly pass through the chest, and even those above would find it hard to defend. Therefore, the Cold Cloud Stellar Cluster was a place of utter danger for immortals. Ordinary immortals wouldn't approach this region. Of course, behind the danger was often a coveted harvest. It was precisely because the Cold Cloud Star Group was too dangerous that there were not many immortals here. Other than a few dilapidated immortal cities in the surroundings, there are almost no immortals here. So, in the Star Group, there were a large number of spirit stone mines that had yet to be mined. The spirit stones in these spirit stone mines were extremely pure and could be used to forge excellent immortal equipment. The moment Su Yun entered the Cold Cloud Star Group, he was corroded by a bone-piercing cold, and his entire body started to tremble. Even with the protection of the Imperial Battle Robe, he was still unable to endure it. He was walking on the most famous starless path in the Cold Cloud Star Group. This place was not covered by the magnetic field, so the stone star would not appear on this path. He flew at high speed, and at the same time, his eyes were constantly looking around. According to the information he got from Gongsun Lang, the Immortal Pond was located at the end of the Cold Cloud Star Group. This place was not far from the end. In this case, he should be meeting the people of the Immortal Court very soon. Suddenly, Su Yun sensed something His eyebrows twitched. He immediately activated the Imperial battle robe, and his body suddenly became transparent. On the road ahead, a figure suddenly rushed over. It was a man with short hair and wearing gray armor. The man's face was glowing, and he must have used a spell to conceal his appearance. He held a saber in one hand and flew forward like a madman. His body was covered in blood, and the armor on his body was in tatters. He looked like he was in a sorry state. However, compared to this person, Su Yun was more concerned about the powerful auras that were quickly approaching from behind. Several golden light swords suddenly flew over from the sky. They twisted in the air and landed in front of the short-haired man who was running away. The man's expression changed. He quickly turned around, intending to bypass the swords. However, these sharp swords moved in an instant. A circle of golden sword images spun out, like the mouth of a fierce beast, directly swallowing the man. A moment later, the golden sword quickly shrank, transforming into a ray of golden light that pierced through the man's heart, flying towards the few auras behind him. When he looked at the man again, he was already frozen in place, like a stone sculpture, still floating in place. Seeing that, Su Yun, who was hiding at the side, darkened. That golden sword was also an exquisite sword control technique. The man was already dead, and there was no way for him to survive. His body began to move, and blood spurted out like a fountain. Pieces of his body began to peel off, and in the blink of an eye, his entire body turned into thousands of pieces of meat, falling down. A perfect and lively soul appeared in front of him along with the falling pieces of meat. As soon as the soul appeared, it wanted to escape again. However, not long after it moved, a few figures blocked its path. The soul let out a high-pitched scream, but before it could make much sound, one of the figures grabbed the soul with a palm and pinched him over. Su Yun immediately sized up the attire of these people, embroidered clothes and white jade. They were all people of the immortal court. What's going on? Did this person do something wrong? The people of the immortal court didn't arrest him, but chose to kill him? Su Yun was puzzled. However, the person of the immortal court who grabbed the soul did not hesitate at all and directly tore the soul apart, leaving no survivors. This method was truly shocking. At this moment, the figures on the other side spoke. This is the last one, right? Yes, that's good. Otherwise, we won't be able to report to the Lord. Anyone who dares to spy on the celestial pool, kill them all. No survivors. Yes, seal everything around the celestial pool. News about the celestial pool will be announced 3 days later. I just received news that the participants of the celestial pool are already on their way and are estimated to arrive early tomorrow morning. When they arrive, immediately send them into the celestial pool and nurture experts for the immortal court, not leaving any spots. This time, there's no need to leave any. We will take all the spots, and after we absorb the miraculous effects of the celestial pool, we will immediately leave and then announce the location. When the other celestial sects find this place first, we will slowly come here. If that's the case, the celestial pool competition this time will not be able to continue. Lord, you mean the immortal court will secretly use up the celestial pool? That's right, but the guardian beast in front of the celestial pool seems different from before. We haven't made a move yet, and judging from its aura, it's not easy to deal with. Not easy to deal with. A cold snore came out. I don't care what method you use, but you must kill this guardian beast before tomorrow. You can't delay any part of the plan. If anything goes wrong, then you'll have to take your heads to the Lord. Yes. A few voices were filled with fear and trepidation. Enough nonsense. Let's go back first. With that, one of them took the lead and flew forward. However, before he flew far, he suddenly turned around and scanned the surroundings, especially where Su Yun was, and could not help but take a few more glances. Lord, what's wrong? The person stared at the surroundings for a moment, then said, Nothing. With that said, he flew far away. Su Yun, who was in the darkness, stared at the people who flew away, and after a moment, his footsteps moved slightly, and he also followed. Chapter 11:15. The strength of these immortal court people should be at the fourth stage of the spirit profound immortal realm. And to Su Yun, they were already considered incredible people, but in this immortal court operation, they could only be said to be low-level immortal court people. Because according to the information that Xiao Chua had provided to Su Yun, the immortals that the immortal court had sent to be in charge of the immortal pawn this time were all at least at the fifth stage of the spirit profound immortal realm. For a sect like the immortal seeking sect, an existence at the fifth stage of the spirit profound immortal realm was already the leader of a sect, but in the immortal court, he was just a court member and envoy who listened to everything. Although Su Yun had learned a lot about the immortal court and its people from Xiao Chua, that was only from Xiao Chua's point of view. Su Yun did not know anything about the other level of envoys, but Su Yun was sure that the people sent this time could not represent the overall strength of the immortal court. These immortals quickly flew towards the location of the immortal pond, following the main road, not stopping for a moment. When they reached the center of the starless road, these people suddenly turned around and actually crashed into the ice cloud. Su Yun's eyes turned cold, but when he saw those people crashing into the ice cloud, it was as if the ice cloud was nothing. Their bodies directly passed through, and there were no stone stars flying around. Seeing that, Su Yun immediately understood. The frozen clouds here were not real. They were all illusions. They were all just illusions. They were just illusions. However, what made Su Yun even more surprised was, why would there be illusions in this place? This place should have been a real land of ice clouds. Even if he wanted to use illusions, it would be impossible unless he wanted to shatter the ice clouds there. Only then would he be able to use illusions, and logically speaking, that place was a dead end. How could anyone enter? Su Yun carefully leaned over, hesitated for a moment, and finally chose to charge in. The seemingly cold and hard ice clouds were, in fact, just a layer of illusion. When people entered it, they would not encounter any obstruction. Instead, after crashing into it, their field of vision immediately widened. Taking a closer look, it was actually a completely different world. Behind this illusion, there was actually a long passageway. This passageway was completely within the ice clouds, as if it had been forcefully opened by someone using magic power. It was especially mystical. Not only that, around this passageway, on the surface of the ice clouds, there were a large number of ceiling boundaries. They were like skeletons that supported this passageway. The stone stars that were flying everywhere in the ice clouds crashed into these ceiling boundaries, but they were actually unable to break them. This should be the work of the people of the immortal court. It seemed that they had known about the immortal pond a long time ago, and had quickly set up such a secret passageway. Judging from a ceiling barrier on the passageway, it didn't seem to be able to completely block the impact of the stone star. Some of the barriers were already bulging, and were not far from breaking. It could be seen that this passageway was only used temporarily. Where does the passage lead to? Did the person who was killed escape from here? Who was that person? Why was he killed? Layers of doubt shrouded Su Yun's heart. He took a deep breath, stared ahead, and slowly walked forward. This passageway was so hidden, and it was located in the ice clouds. It was impossible for ordinary immortals to find it. He slowly walked forward and discovered that the barrier that covered the interior of the tunnel could actually completely block out the aura inside the tunnel. Forget about the outside. It was difficult to even smell any immortal chi or immortal intent inside. Previously, he had heard from those people that the immortal court planned to completely monopolize the immortal pawn this time. Looking at this tunnel now, it was most likely true. After walking for about half an incense stick of time, he finally walked out of the tunnel. At the end of the tunnel, there was a colorful halo. Su Yun stood inside the tunnel and looked at the colorful halo, his expression extremely solemn. What should he do now? Should he walk out of the tunnel? Or should he return the way he came? If he chose to walk out, then what would the other end of the tunnel look like? What if there were many experts of the immortal court? Su Yun's understanding of the people of the immortal court was too little, especially the experts of the immortal court. There were only a few people from the immortal court that he had come into contact with. Other than Kong Ling and Yuan Tianya, who had already been killed, there were only Luo Wuling and the others. However, these people could only be considered as lower-class people in the immortal court. Suyun did not know a single one of the middle class or even the high-class people. Even the lord above, Gongsun Lang, could only be considered as a middle-class person. At this moment, Su Yun's mind was in a fierce struggle. In fact, his biggest enemy in this immortal pond operation was not the guardian beast of the immortal pond, nor was it the unknown experts of the other immortal sects, but the people of the immortal court. The current immortal court had the advantage, and the immortal pool was most likely going to fall into their hands. But the importance of the immortal pool to Su Yun was self-evident. If he could obtain the fortune of the immortal pool, it would definitely be settled once and for all. Not only would Su Yun obtain absolute strength, even Xing'er would be able to get rid of the difficulties caused by the divine spirit body and would no longer be threatened by anyone. He looked at the sword sheath hanging on his waist, then looked at the multicolored halo in front of him. After a while, he activated all the immortal energy in his body and gathered it all on the imperial battle robe on his body. When his body was almost completely transparent and without any aura, he carefully walked towards the halo. As he neared the halo, the light that was emitted was so piercing that Su Yun found it hard to open his eyes. He endured the discomfort and walked forward. However, just as he was about to walk out of the tunnel, a few weak auras suddenly appeared in front of him. Su Yun was shocked. He immediately stuck to the wall of the tunnel and did not move. After a few breaths, 2 or 3 figures walked out from the tunnel. Su Yun held his breath and stared at the few of them. The halo of light dissipated, revealing their appearances. Looking at them, they were all from the immortal court. Their auras were restrained. They were dressed in armor, with large blades and white jade hanging from their waists. Like guards, they walked forward in an orderly manner. There were a total of 4 of them, all of them expressionless. Although I can't sense the auras of these fellows, their killing intent is so heavy. The group of people walked to the middle of the tunnel and stopped. They split into 2 groups, one on the left and one on the right. After they stood in place, a thick layer of soil suddenly condensed on their bodies. A moment later, all of them had turned into statues. Seeing this scene, Su Yun was startled. Are these the guards of the immortal court? The soil on their bodies seemed to be a layer of defense. This defense was probably second only to the imperial battle robe. With these 4 people here, if anyone wanted to barge in, it would not be that easy. But why did they only send people to guard at this time? Su Yun heaved a sigh of relief. If he had been a step slower, it would not have been so easy. Since the 4 of them had become statues, he could not be bothered to waste any more time and carefully walked out of the tunnel. However, when the light in front of his eyes gradually faded, the scene that entered his line of sight truly shocked Su Yun. This was actually a huge, empty area. There were no ice clouds in the surroundings, and the sky was completely colorful. However, in an extremely distant place, there was a waterfall-like stream of light. This stream of light descended from the sky, piercing through the sky and going straight down. It was impossible to see what the bottom looked like, and around this stream of light were countless people from the immortal court. At a rough glance, there were at least a few thousand people. They were all busy setting up formations and building cloud platforms, as if they were preparing for something. In front of the flowing light, a large number of armored immortal court experts with terrifying auras had already gathered. Each of them was staring at the flowing light with a solemn expression, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Behind them, there were still many experts of the immortal court rushing towards them. Some of them were holding onto magic treasures, while others were holding onto scrolls. From the looks of it, they were going to deal with something. The first thing that came to Su Yun's mind was the guardian beast. Looking at their direction, they were facing the stream of light. Could it be that the immortal pool was behind the stream of light? Could this be the cliff of immortals? Su Yun's heart suddenly jumped. If that was the case, then this place was the location of the immortal pool. But this place seemed to be different from what he had found out. Wait, if this was the location of the immortal pool, then why did the people of the immortal court go through so much trouble to dig a tunnel? It wasn't that there was no path to the immortal pool. Why would the immortal court do such a thing? Unless This place was not the front of the immortal pool. It was the back of it. Most of the people rushed to the immortal pool. There was only one thought in their minds, and that was how to defeat the guardian beast and enter the immortal pool to enjoy the good fortune of heaven and earth. No one would go around the immortal pool and come to the other side because there was no need, and no one would think that someone would be hiding here. The people of the immortal court control the other side of the immortal pool. In fact, they already have the immortal pool in their hands. They are clear about the situation in front of the immortal pool. If anyone wants to defeat the guardian beast and enter the immortal pool, they can take measures in time to ensure that the other party cannot enter. This way, unless it is a legendary super expert, no one will be able to take down the immortal pool. Who would have thought that the immortal court had such a plan? Su Yin frowned. If that was the case, the situation was not optimistic. Who is it? Take him down. Suddenly, a few shouts came from behind the stream of light, and the entire immortal court was in an uproar. The armored soldiers immediately sealed the waterfall of light and looked like they were ready to fight. Their movements were extremely fast, well-trained, and terrifyingly high, just like robots. Su Yun frowned and immediately touched the sword sheath. At the same time, he retreated, ready to take action. But at this moment, the people of the immortal court gathered in front of the stream of light, all flew into the stream of light. After a while, they flew out again, but the two people at the front were holding a person in black clothes. His face was glowing, and he had used a disguise technique. They directly flew towards the cloud platform in the center. Looking at the person's clothes, he did not seem to be from the immortal court. Chapter 11:16. If not for the protection of the imperial battle robe, it would have been impossible for Su Yun to sneak in so easily, but that guy seemed to be different. He did not know that there were so many experts of the immortal court behind the immortal pond, and before he could even react, he was captured. Su Yun carefully walked towards the stream of light, and when he was halfway there, the Lord on the cloud platform had already started to interrogate the person who was captured. "Who are you?" A deep voice came out from the cloud platform. When Su Yun heard the voice, he couldn't help but stop in his tracks. He looked towards the cloud platform and saw a man in a golden cloak standing on the cloud platform. There were two huge stone lion statues on the cloud platform, and a golden chair was placed in the middle. Two rows of people from the immortal court were standing on both sides of the chair. This man was like an emperor sitting on the chair. Under the golden cloak was a pair of golden eyes that were full of majesty. When this man was brought up, a female immortal standing at the front immediately waved her hand and cast a technique, dispelling the immortal technique that covered this man's face. Immediately, this person's true appearance appeared in front of everyone. Gong Sun Lang. When Su Yin saw this person, he was extremely shocked. He never thought that the person who was captured was actually Gong Sun Lang. Su Yin knew that Gong Sun Lang had already arrived, but he did not expect that this guy would actually be captured by the immortal court for no reason. At this moment, Gong Sun Lang was trembling in fear. His entire body was trembling crazily. He could barely stand up straight. He half knelt on the ground, his head lowered, not daring to look at the person in front of him. This person, I seem to have seen him somewhere before. An immortal at the side sized up Gong Sun Lang, rubbing his chin as he thought, "Where have I seen him before?" The person sitting on the golden chair said indifferently, "Raise your head." "Yes, yes." Gong Sun Lang's lips trembled as he raised his head. "Who are you?" The person on the golden chair repeated himself. However, these 5 simple words were like a final warning. If Gong Sun Lang still did not answer this time, perhaps his soul would completely dissipate. Gong, 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 Gong. Gong Sun Lang, this little one is called Gong Sun Lang, is our immortal court's spirit scout. Gong Sun Lang lied on the ground, his voice trembling as he shouted anxiously, "You're from the immortal court?" Everyone was astonished, but the person on the golden chair remained calm and collected. "Since you're from the immortal court, why did you sneak here? Your cultivation is so low, and you're not one of us. I don't think the immortal court sent you here, right? Tell me, how did you know the location of a celestial pond? And who sent you here? What is your purpose for coming here? I want all of you to give me an honest explanation." A tall and muscular immortal kicked Gong Sun Lang to the ground and asked sternly. Gong Sun Lang rolled and almost fell off the cloud platform. He looked extremely miserable, but facing so many experts, he did not dare to breathe loudly, nor did he dare to be careless. He turned around again, laid on the ground, and shouted, "Lord, please spare my life. This lowly one is only here to do business. I didn't know that this is the immortal pool. Please spare my life. This lowly one accidentally entered this place." Gong Sun Lang shouted in fear and shock. His voice was extremely miserable, but Su Yun was not interested in him at all. Taking advantage of the fact that most of the people's attention was on him, entering the flowing light at this time was the best choice. Just now, when these people entered the flowing light to capture Gong Sun Lang, Su Yun had already paid attention to the flowing light and realized that if a person entered it, it would cause ripples. The imperial battle robe only completely concealed him and did not turn his body into nothingness. If he were to enter just like that, it would definitely cause a commotion, causing the people of the immortal court to notice his existence. He could only wait for these armored warriors to enter together and then sneak past them. Su Yun originally wanted to go back the way he came, go around the tunnel, and walk to the front of the immortal pool, but the tunnel was already blocked by the statue warriors, so it was impossible to turn back now. In the end, Gong Sun Lang was just a small character, so the Lord on the golden chair would not waste too much time on him. However, he was rather curious as to how Gong Sun Lang knew the location of the immortal pool. After all, the matter of the immortal pool was a secret in the immortal court, and non-participants were not allowed to know about it. However, there was no need for the man on the golden chair to do the interrogation himself. He waved his hand and said indifferently, "Liliao, I'll leave this guy to you. Let him tell me everything he knows. I want to know who sent him here and who told him the location of the immortal pool." "Yes, my lord." An immortal at the side immediately cupped his fists and replied, then directly grabbed Gong Sun Lang, who was on the ground, and flew to the side. Not long after, Gong Sun Lang's screams started to ring out. It's getting late. The guardian beast this time is much more special than in the past. Since everyone is here, let's let everyone take action. We must take care of the guardian beast in the shortest amount of time possible and open the immortal pool. The man on the golden chair spoke again. "Yes, sir," everyone responded. Following that, a horn sounded in the surroundings. The armored soldiers standing in front of the flowing light moved. They directly flew forward, pulled out the blades at their waists, and crashed into the flowing light. Immediately, a large number of ripples floated up from the flowing light. The power of these armored warriors was so strong that it was not impossible for them to take down the guardian beast. Su Yun quietly approached. Taking advantage of the time when the ripples were the most concentrated, he crashed into the ripples. At this time, the Lord sitting on the golden chair suddenly opened his eyes and looked towards the flowing light, as if he was deep in thought. The people at the side looked at him curiously. "What's wrong, my lord?" someone asked respectfully. "Nothing." The man on the golden chair shook his head lightly, but a light flickered in the depths of his eyes. Crash! A burst of multicolored light floated above his eyes. Su Yun could not help but close his eyes, and when the multicolored light weakened, waves of fragrance assaulted his nostrils. He carefully opened his eyes and looked around. He discovered that behind the stream of light, there was actually a vast expanse of green grass. Flowers bloomed on the grass, spreading in all directions. However, around the grass, there were many huge and resplendent diamonds. They were like walls, completely sealing off this place, and above them was the resplendent waterfall of flowing light. Su Yun was startled, but quickly regained his senses and anxiously dodged to the side. More and more armored warriors came out from behind the stream of light. When they came out of the stream of light, they lined up in a row and began to activate their immortal techniques. They were either prepared or used spells that could increase their abilities or activated scrolls. For a moment, light shone in all directions, and it was extremely beautiful. Su Yun's gaze shifted. Looking towards the center of the area, he discovered that at the place where the waterfall of light fell, There was a huge round hole that looked like it was made of diamond, and white light shot out from the hole, like a white dragon. An indescribable mystical aura floated out along with the white light. This must be the place that led to the immortal pool. After all of these armored warriors arrived, they did not hesitate much. After the preparations were completed, they all headed towards the round hole. Just as they were about to approach, a heaven-shaking roar erupted from the round hole. Roar. It was like a dragon's roar. Everything in the area shook, and even the stream of light seemed to be swaying. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice, but they did not reveal the slightest bit of fear. Immediately after, a huge black figure squeezed out from the round hole. A wave of power spread out, but it was not considered strong. The first thing that appeared was its head. It was a head that was as big as a small hill, with round copper eyes and a single black horn on its forehead. Its entire body was covered in fish scales, and its ears were as big as an elephant's ears. Next was its body, which was especially sturdy, shaped like a lion or a tiger, with 4 claws, all of which were like pillars of the heavens. Finally was its tail, which was swinging wildly behind it, and the fur at the end of its tail was like a sharp blade, extremely sharp and powerful. It looked like a qilin, but there were many places where it was completely different from a qilin. It was Su Yun's first time seeing such a creature, and he believed that the people from the immortal court were the same. It was born from the immortal pool, but it did not have the slightest bit of immortal intent. Instead, it was more like a demonic creature, especially its ruthless aura, which made people shiver uncontrollably. Who would be able to associate such an existence with the immortal pool? Are you the bunch of reckless people who came here to disturb my sweet dreams? The creature's bell-like eyes stared at the people from the immortal court, and white gas was spat out from its huge nostrils, looking like it was in a rage. Go, if you can't subdue it, just kill it. We must get rid of it in the shortest time possible. The leader of the people from the immortal court shouted, and without any superfluous words, he took the lead and rushed towards the creature. The rest of the people immediately followed, and everyone turned into light beams, shooting towards the creature like arrows. The creature was enraged and roared furiously. Bastard, you dare to covet my immortal water. Covet my immortal water. You even want to harm my life. I will definitely not let you go. After saying that, the creature opened its mouth full of sharp teeth and spat out a jet of pitch-black flames. The people from the immortal court were immediately devoured by the flames. However, after the flames passed, the people from the immortal court didn't suffer much damage, and they directly approached the creature, slashing at its body with their snow-white blades. Not long after, a shrill scream burst out from the creature's mouth. So powerful! Su Yun overestimated the creature's strength and underestimated the fighting strength of the people from the immortal court. He never expected the creature to be so weak, and in just a few moves, it was completely suppressed, with almost no room to fight back. The legendary guardian beast was only this powerful? If that was the case, wouldn't the guardian beast be useless? He frowned. If the creature was defeated just like that, then the immortal pool would be cleared, and it would really be controlled by the people from the immortal court, and he wouldn't have any chance. This wouldn't do. Didn't he put in so much effort for the immortal pool's water? How could he just give it to the immortal court like that? Immediately, Su Yun secretly touched the sword sheath and slowly approached the creature and the people from the immortal court. Chapter 11:17. Although the guardian beast was enormous, it couldn't withstand the attacks of these elites of the immortal court at all. The blades that were darting in all directions were aimed at its body along with the cold light. Immortal chi shot out in all directions and overflowed with killing intent. The guardian beast was no match for these immortal court soldiers. These soldiers couldn't be described as soldiers. They were like a team. When they fought, there were rules and regulations. Some of them were the main attackers. Some of them were breaking the defense. Some of them were observing the situation from the side, and some of them were analyzing the opponent's weakness. All of them didn't just charge forward blindly, but had a clear division of labor and tacit cooperation. Although the guardian beast was facing thousands of people, in fact, It was equivalent to a single person, a terrifying existence that no one knew how powerful it was. The guardian beast had already lost the ability to resist. At this moment, its entire body was covered with hideous blade wounds. Green blood flowed out crazily, and it looked extremely miserable. Seeing this, Su-Yin looked towards the people of the immortal court and immediately locked onto one of the immortals. This immortal was dressed differently from the others. He wore a brocade robe and wore a long crown on his head. He looked rather imposing, especially when he held a flag in his hand instead of a weapon. He stood at the highest point and waved the flag in his hand from time to time, as if he was giving orders. To catch bandits, first catch the leader. It would be best if he attacked the commander at this time. But facing so many experts of the immortal court, and the guardian beast was obviously not strong enough. If his identity was exposed, would he be a match for these people of the immortal court? Su-Yin didn't know, but now that things had come to this, he had to give it a try. If he just let the treasure of the immortal pool be given to the immortal court, he wouldn't be able to accept it. But at this moment, whoosh! A strong, spurting sound suddenly reverberated in the area. Then, from the entrance of the immortal pool behind the guardian beast, a large amount of white gas suddenly spewed out. These gas flew out and directly collided with the guardian beast. The body of the guardian beast was instantly enveloped by the gas, and then it turned into a huge gray cocoon. The experts of the immortal court who were surrounding the guardian beast and attacking frantically found that their blades could no longer break through the guardian beast's defense. The cocoon that wrapped around its body was especially terrifying. No matter how much immortal chi he used, he couldn't leave even the slightest trace on it. Seeing that, Su-Yin was startled and immediately stopped moving, carefully standing in the distance and watching. The guards of the immortal court also felt something was wrong. They hurriedly retreated and gathered together under the command of the person holding the flag. They activated their immortal arts while observing the situation over there. Hua! A strange sound rang out, and the light in the area suddenly dimmed. A gust of cold wind blew. The light gradually turned grayish-white, and all the flowers and grass in the area withered. The smell of death filled the entire space. Su-Yin was stunned. The experts of the immortal court were also astonished, as if they couldn't figure out what was going on. A large number of cracks appeared on the huge cocoon, spreading outwards like a spider web. As more and more cracks spread, the cocoon also began to loosen. For some reason, the people found that the temperature in this place had become extremely cold, as if a drop of water had turned into ice. A terrifying aura filled the area. Patter! Finally, an ear-piercing sound rang out from the entrance of the immortal pool. Then the right side of the huge cocoon split and peeled off. When that piece fell off, the scene inside was immediately revealed. Everyone's eyes immediately caught this terrifying sign. Looking at the inside of the cocoon, it was no longer the strange image of the guardian beast from before. Now its entire body was emitting black chi. This black chi was cold and ruthless, extremely similar to devil chi, but it was not devil chi. Its body was almost enveloped by the devil chi. The scales on its body turned black. Its limbs became thick and huge, and its eyes became blood red. Especially its fangs and the horn on its forehead, it was now long and sharp, and even slightly curved. From the time it formed to the time it broke out of the cocoon, it had only lasted for less than half an incense stick of time. However, in this short period of time, the guardian beast had changed so much that it was extremely shocking. Not only its appearance, but its aura and strength. It was hard to believe. The immortal court experts tried to use the immortal barrier to isolate the chi, but to no avail. This chi seemed to be able to penetrate all defenses straight into the bones, and even the imperial battle robe on Su-Yun's body could not resist its corrosion. What was going on? In such a short period of time, the guardian beast had undergone such a tremendous change. Su-Yun could not believe what he was feeling. Compared to the guardian beast from before, the current guardian beast strength was probably more than 10 times stronger. The gigantic ball of black fog broke out of the cocoon and crawled out. Every time its limbs touched the ground, the entire ground would tremble. The pair of green eyes behind the pitch-black fog stared straight at the immortal court experts. A deep roar erupted from the pitch-black guardian beast's mouth. Following that, the gigantic creature leaped high and landed in the middle of the immortal court, crazily swinging its terrifyingly sharp claws. Streams of death aura crazily revolved, like vines surrounding everyone. If Su Yun was not far away, he would have been affected by this strange aura. These people were the elites of the immortal court, after all. Even though the guardian beast had undergone such a change, they were still not afraid, nor did they panic at all. The person holding the flag retreated more than 100 meters and continued to wave the flag in his hand. Every time he moved, the soldiers attacking the guardian beast would change their formation, and the power of the formation would also be different. However, the guardian beast's strength had clearly increased by a lot. With a swipe of its claws, the immortal court experts were actually unable to withstand it and were directly sent flying. The immortal chi between its claws exploded, and it could actually shatter space. Its strength was terrifying, and an expert of the immortal court was accidentally struck by its claws. When his body landed on the ground, his armor was actually shattered, and a large number of cracks appeared on his skin, making him look extremely miserable. He crawled up with much difficulty, wanting to fight again, but he could not accumulate any more immortal chi. He immediately checked and found out that the immortal meridian in his body had been destroyed by the palm strike. Everyone be careful. This guardian beast has absorbed all the impurities in the immortal pool. It is the representative of the evil side of the immortal pool, and at the same time, it also possesses the power of the immortal pool. If we want to break it, we must start from its weakness and purify it with a sacred immortal technique. The person holding the flag shouted. This was the first time everyone had seen the guardian immortal beast, but he was able to quickly analyze the guardian beast's origins and weaknesses. Even Su Yun had to admit that he was inferior to him in terms of eyesight. Use the Holy Spirit immortal equipment. A loud shout rang out. The soldiers of the immortal court split into two groups. One of them directly rushed towards the guardian beast, while the other stopped where they were and took out oddly shaped magic treasures. They activated their immortal chi and infused it into the magic treasures, closed their eyes, and chanted awkwardly. When they chanted the chants, the magic treasures in their hands immediately glowed, and then with a buzzing sound, one of them threw the glowing immortal equipment in his hands into the air, and at the same time, he shouted Tian Kue. As soon as he shouted, the people beside him also threw the immortal equipment in their hands and shouted Tian Ke. Then the third person shouted Tian Ji, Tian Xian, Tian Yong, Tian Xiong, Tian Meng. Roars sounded out continuously, and one after another, snow-white immortal equipment floated in the air. A total of 108 immortal equipment floated in the air, and in the end, they actually turned into a huge starlight diagram and covered the guardian beast. The light diagram shone brightly, and a sacred aura poured down like a waterfall, filling the entire area. The guardian beast was obviously afraid of this power, and with a cry, it kept retreating. But how could the experts of the immortal court let it retreat just like that? The people surrounding it immediately gave up on defense and attacked it without caring about anything else, trying to divert its attention and let the starlight diagram fall. Although the guardian beast had experienced a rebirth, it was still not a match for the people of the immortal court. When the starlight diagram covered its body, it let out a shrill scream, as though it was going to shatter the entire celestial pool area. Roar! Su Yun was shaken to the point that his entire body was swaying, but his eyes were filled with shock. These people, they actually had such a method? Then wouldn't it be easy for them to deal with the demonic cultivator? Su Yun snorted. He raised his sword and rushed forward. His target was the person holding the flag. There was no time to think. You despicable people. You covet my celestial pool water. You all deserve to die. You all deserve to die. At this moment, the guardian beast of the celestial pool suddenly let out a series of angry roars. Then, A large amount of clouds floated on its surface, and these clouds shattered the starlight diagram, forcing the experts of the immortal court to retreat and directly turned into threads, wrapping its body again. After a moment, a huge cocoon appeared again. What's going on? At this moment, even the person holding the flag could not remain calm. Could it be that the guardian beast was going to evolve again? The previous evolution had caused its strength to increase explosively, and everyone was already feeling strenuous. Then this time, what kind of strength would it have? No one dared to imagine, and Su Yun was the same. However, he did not want to wait any longer. If the guardian beast was defeated, the celestial pool would open, and the people of the immortal court could enter at will. Even if he took advantage of the chaos to sneak in, he could not stay in the celestial pool. The only way now was to use the guardian beast to destroy the main force of the people of the immortal court, and then enter the celestial pool himself. Without the main force of the immortal court, even the people of the various celestial sects could not deal with them. So how could they deal with Su Yun? Thinking of this, his killing intent rose. He quietly took out a snow-white lotus star sword from the sword sheath, and without a sound, he stabbed towards the person holding the flag. Chapter 11:18. The sound of flesh being pierced rang out. Perhaps at the moment, this sound was not considered loud, but the low roar that accompanied it shocked the experts of the immortal court. Who are you? The man with the flag grabbed the lotus star sword that was stabbed into his heart with one hand and roared while glaring at Su Yun. How dare you? How dare you assassinate an envoy of the immortal court? Unforgivable. Kill. The few immortal court experts behind were enraged. They immediately rushed over, their blades and swords slashing towards Su Yun. Su Yun raised his sword and cut off a piece of meat from the flagman. Although the flagman was unable to defend against a sneak attack and did not activate the protection in time, allowing Su Yun to easily break through his body. But this time, the flagman had already gathered all the immortal chi in his heart. If it was in the past, Su Yun would have been able to pick out his heart, but he could not right now. But no matter what, after being ambushed by Su Yun, the flagman was more or less injured and was not in a good state. And at the other side, the immortal court people who were preparing to continue attacking the guardian beast all turned their spears and pounced towards Su Yun. All of these immortals that blotted out the sky and covered the earth directly locked onto Su Yun. Waves after waves of astonishing killing intent, like steel needles and sharp swords, completely pierced through Su Yun. How could Su Yun dare to hesitate at all? He immediately activated the Saint Devil Soul, and raised his cultivation to the peak spirit god realm. Facing so many experts of the immortal court, forget about him being a 5th stage spirit profound immortal. Even if he was a 5th stage spirit profound immortal, it would still be difficult for him to defend against them. Only the Saint Devil Soul could forcefully raise his strength to the peak, allowing Su Yun to have the qualifications to fight against the people of the immortal court. With the activation of the Saint Devil Soul, the devil chi immediately wreaked havoc, as though doomsday had arrived. The entire entrance to the immortal pool was completely filled with devil chi, and one could not even see their fingers in front of them. Devil chi? You are a devil cultivator? The man with the flag turned pale with fright. The experts of the immortal court were also stunned. None of them would have thought that there would actually be a devil cultivator that would come to the entrance of the immortal pool to cause trouble. The devil saint unleashed his devil soul. Terrifying chi and immense pressure that could crush one's soul followed. This was the first time for the experts of the immortal court to face such a powerful existence. They found themselves breathless. Compared to the guardian beast, this devil was much more terrifying. The devil chi flowed along the flowing light and flowed towards the temporary encampment of the immortal court. Those people who were still constructing the cloud platform magical formation stopped what they were doing and stared at the flowing light with their huge eyes. Amidst the colorful and dazzling flowing light, a strange pitch-black luster gradually appeared. Then the luster thickened, and the devil chi seeped through the flowing light. The man in the golden cloak, who was sitting on the golden chair, suddenly stood up and stared in the direction of the flowing light. My lord, there's a situation. It looks like a devil has appeared. A man immediately ascended the cloud platform and knelt before the person on the golden throne. Although I vaguely sensed it before, I didn't expect this guy to be a devil cultivator. His methods of concealment are truly impressive. The man on the golden throne said softly, "Immediately send a message to the immortal court and inform my lord to send over the devil-slaying elites. Also, have everyone here use the devil-sealing grand formation with the immortal pool as the center. This time, the goal is not to kill him, but to trap him. Understand?" "Yes, my lord." The man immediately retreated. Soon, the immortals who were constructing the magical formation and the cloud platform gathered together. Under the lead of the man, they entered the tunnel and went around the entrance of the immortal pool. "My lord." A person beside him cupped his fists and said to the man on the golden throne, "If we make such a huge commotion, I'm afraid that many immortals will be attracted. By then, the location of the immortal pool will be exposed." "It's fine." The man on the golden throne smiled faintly. "Now that things have come to this, it doesn't matter whether it is exposed or not. Even if the other immortals know the location of the immortal pool, so what can they do? A devil cultivator has appeared here, and he is eyeing the immortal pool. This reason alone is enough. We can say that the devil cultivator has set a trap and is plotting against the immortal world, so we have no choice but to seal the immortal pool. After dealing with the devil cultivator, we can send people into the immortal pool and use it. When it reopens, we can tell the immortals that the immortal pool has been polluted by the devil cultivator and can no longer be used. We can't do anything about it. Wouldn't that solve everything?" The man's eyes lit up and he hurriedly said, "My lord is wise. This matter was originally complicated, but the arrival of the devil cultivator has inadvertently helped us a lot and saved us a lot of trouble. Isn't that a good thing?" The thousands of immortal court soldiers were well-trained and proficient in array formations. They were originally specially used to deal with the guardian beast, but although the guardian beast was special, its strength was not strong enough to deal with it. With the addition of such a devil cultivator, the value of these soldiers could be displayed. "You guys hurry up and build the demon-sealing great array. I will go in and take a look at the situation and restrain the devil cultivator." The man on the golden throne stood up and flew out of the cloud platform, crashing into the flowing light. "Lord, be careful." Su Yun, who was wearing a pitch-black cloak, raised his head. Under his face that was filled with devil chi was a pair of blood-red and sinister eyes. His devil chi was extremely dense. Even the guardian beast's aura was completely suppressed by him. The people of the immortal court seemed to be completely in Su Yun's exclusive zone. The devil chi was like the mouth of a demon, biting the people of the immortal court. Being in the devil chi, everyone felt extreme pain all over their bodies. It was extremely uncomfortable. And in this darkness, other than the blood-red color, there was also a pure white color. That was the Lotus Star Sword in Su Yun's hand. The Lotus Star Sword was not the divine sword in the sword sheath, so the seal on the ominous sword loosened. Su Yun did not dare to casually use the sword in the sword sheath, so he mostly used the Lotus Star Sword. But in the dense devil chi, the light emitted by the Lotus Star Sword was extremely holy. The person with the flag was in a trance. He was sure that he was not mistaken. That holy sword was actually being used by a demon. How ironic was this? Bind! A cold shout came from the darkness. The holy light of the Lotus Star Sword exploded and then quickly disappeared. When the light disappeared, the devil chi that filled the area actually split into many snake-like objects, directly binding the people of the immortal court. Many immortals did not have time to dodge and were directly tied up and fell to the ground. As for the remaining people who were not tied up, they were constantly resisting the annoying devil chi. Directly bring out the purest immortal energy from the immortal meridian and cover the surface of your body. You can resist this devil chi. The person with the flag quickly analyzed the method to resist the strange devil chi and immediately shouted. When the rest of the people heard this, they immediately did as they were told. It had to be said that the quality of these people from the immortal court was extremely high. In almost an instant, Their bodies released a faint halo of light, and when the devil chi that was like a devil snake approached them, it immediately dimmed by quite a bit. Counterattack. The person with the flag immediately shouted. At this time, it was useless to blindly defend. The best defense was to attack. Hearing that, everyone immediately moved. With Su Yun as the center, they split into two groups, scattering to the left and right. And at the same time, they continuously released the immortal chi in their bodies, not holding anything back, nor did they plan to hold anything back, as though they wanted to rely on the immortal chi in their bodies to resist the surrounding terrifying devil chi. However, in the end, they had overestimated their own strength. The overflowing immortal chi did not dilute the devil chi by much, and when they moved, Su Yun moved as well. He was already impatient. A pair of blood-red eyes stared at the approaching people. When the first person approached, Su Yun held onto the lotus star sword with one hand and rushed forward. The shadow flickered in the devil chi, and those people were unable to react in time. Swoosh, swoosh, the snow-white light flickered in the darkness. It was especially eye-catching. The person from the immortal court at the front did not even have time to react before both his arms were chopped off. He let out a painful howl and then immediately became silent. The person with the flag anxiously looked over, only to see that Su Yun was standing not far away from the person in the darkness, and that person had already been grabbed by the neck by Su Yun, with one hand raised up. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't. His neck was about to be broken. His legs were randomly staring, and the immortal chi in his body was immediately sealed by the devil chi that leaked out from Su Yun's body. This was a blatant suppression of strength. The person with the flag widened his eyes as he stared blankly at this scene. In his impression, the devil cultivator had already declined. Even if there were a few hidden great devils, they wouldn't be that strong. But now, the devil cultivator that everyone saw was completely different. His strength had already surpassed their imaginations. Kacha! That person's neck was broken, and the devil chi followed the cut on his neck and tore his body into powder. His soul leaked out, but before it could fly far, it was grabbed by the devil chi that overflowed from Su Yun's body and forcefully dragged into his body and was absorbed. Everyone saw such a solemn scene. Afraid? Was there really such a fearless person in this world? Su Yun did not know, but he could feel that these immortals were afraid. Although they did not show it on their faces, Su Yun could clearly see what they were thinking. He turned his head and stared at another immortal who was close to him. He directly extended his hand and grabbed him. The Lotus Star sword did not hesitate at all and directly slashed towards his neck. Another immortal had fallen. When the experts of the immortal court saw this, their hearts trembled. They had discovered a terrifying thing. That was, his defense was completely useless against Su Yun. Once he caught him, he would definitely die. The situation had fallen into a crisis, and the immortal court was not optimistic. The flag bearer gritted his teeth and shouted in a low voice, "Just hold him back." The Lord must have already started to formulate a countermeasure. "As long as we stall for time, we will win. All of you hold on." "Yes, sir." The people of the immortal court roared. "Hold on." Hearing that, the corner of Su Yun's mouth raised into a sinister smile. The killing intent in his eyes revealed. "Can you guys hold on?" With that, he was about to attack. Bada at this moment, an ear-piercing sound suddenly broke the strange atmosphere. Su Yun and the people from the immortal court all looked towards the source of the voice, only to realize that the cocoon of the guardian beast had already been broken. When the person with the flag saw this, his expression changed. Chapter 11:19. The huge cocoon broke open once again. It was pitch black inside, and this time there was no gas leaking out. However, a terrifying pressure came from inside. The person holding the flag had an ugly expression on his face. Judging from the aura coming out of the cocoon, the guardian beast's strength had increased again. No one knew how terrifying its strength was now. Dealing with Su Yun alone was enough to give the people of the immortal court a headache. If the guardian beast added another kick, the pressure on the people of the immortal court would be unprecedentedly huge, and they would not be able to restrain this person anymore. Patter, Patter, patter. The giant cocoon had been completely peeled off, and the creature inside appeared in the sight of the immortal court soldiers again. At this time, the guardian beast had undergone an earth-shaking change. Its single-horned head had been replaced by a triangular head, and there were 7 eyes on its face, each of which was like a snake's. The scales on its body were pitch black but translucent, and they kept shaking like wings. Its body was curled up, and its figure couldn't be seen, especially the pair of huge wings on its back, which covered more than half of its body. However, even though it was curled up, its body was still several times bigger than before. Seeing the guardian beast change, the man with the flag felt his heart beating wildly. Somehow, he had a feeling that the creature he was looking at now was not the same creature he had been fighting against before. Bastard! The giant creature stared at these immortal court people with its horrifying eyes, and suddenly spread its body, which almost filled the whole area. With a deep roar, the creature stretched out its hill-like claws and directly reached towards the immortal court people. The claws contained the power of wind, water, fire, and thunder, which carried a horrifying destructive intent and directly engulfed the immortal court people. 2 immortal court people couldn't dodge in time and were directly covered by the claws. With a series of chee-chee sounds, when the claws lifted up again, the 2 immortal court people had already disappeared. Not even their dregs were left. The rest of the people were terrified. At this time, the guardian beast's strength was many times stronger than before. Its strength had almost increased by several times. It was beyond their ability to deal with. However, they had no way out now. The man with the flag clenched his teeth, raised the flag high, and waved it a few times. The people of the immortal court immediately gathered around him. No one in the immortal court is afraid of death. Since we're going to face a strong enemy today, let's have a good fight and let the enemy know how strong we are. Let them know what we're capable of. The flag bearer shouted loudly to boost morale. At the same time, he waved the flag in his hand again. Hearing that, Su Yun snorted and was about to take action again, but just at that moment, the guardian beast rushed over first. Its gigantic body was like a mountain, and the terrifying pressure caused the skin of the immortals to crack. Their expressions were tense as they stared fixedly at the guardian beast that was charging towards them. Their eyes showed that they were not afraid of death. Seeing this scene, Su Yun suddenly stopped his hand. The guardian beast seemed to be in great pain for these people of the immortal court. There was no need for him to do anything. Moreover, the reinforcements from the other side of the light had already arrived. Compared to these people of the immortal court who were about to be driven into a dead end, the reinforcements from the other side of the light seemed to be more threatening. Dong! The guardian beast fell to the ground, causing an earth-shattering explosion. The people of the immortal court were shaken to the point of confusion. Most of them had their skin and flesh lacerated as they spat out blood, unable to withstand the terrifying explosion. Su Yun was not affected by the wave of qi. He immediately turned and flew towards the light. Just as he approached the light, a large number of immortals came out, and the person in the lead was the man in the golden cloak that he had seen on the platform. The man roughly scanned the scene, and when he saw the mess, his face under the golden cloak slightly twisted. Devil Cultivator. Furthermore, it's such a powerful Devil Cultivator. It seems like the Devil Slayer operation back then needs to continue. The current Devil Cultivator is already stronger than we imagined. The man in the golden cloak stared at Su Yun and said indifferently, "Do the people of the immortal court like to talk nonsense? Are you in a hurry to spar with me? I just don't want to delay. After all, your reinforcements are most likely on their way." Su Yun raised the Lotus Star sword and slowly flew towards him. Hearing that, the man in the golden cloak frowned, but his face did not reveal the slightest bit of fear. He extended his hand toward his waist and took out a golden dagger. The dagger flickered with a golden light. The dagger's shadow rippled. The dagger's body had an extremely obvious holy power. The devil chi that got close to it would be purified. This Sacred Heart dagger is specially used to deal with demons. Although you are powerful and cause me to be fearful, this does not stop me from exchanging blows with you. Today, this dagger will be stained with the blood of a great demon. "Be careful," the man in the golden cloak said. But just as he finished speaking, Su Yun, who was slowly flying towards him, suddenly disappeared. His pupils dilated, and he immediately retreated. Just as he retreated 100 meters away, he saw a wave of sword shadows surging at his previous position. These sword shadows were like a meat grinder, crazily cutting and slashing at the area. Several people of the Immortal Court were directly attacked by the sword shadows and were instantly dismembered by the devil chi that burst out from the sharp swords. In an instant, several spirit immortals had fallen. The speed and destructive power of the sword was simply bone-chilling and soul-chilling. The man in the golden cloak's face turned cold. He raised his dagger and rushed forward. The golden dagger in his hand was like a flying star arrow, resplendent and dazzling, swift, it directly pierced towards the shadow within the sword images. It was aimed at Su Yun's heart. The eyes of the man in the golden cloak flickered, his killing intent exploded. His arms suddenly swelled up. What was infused in his arm was not only all of his power, but also all of his immortal chi. The power of this attack was astonishing. However, the golden stream of light that tore through the darkness suddenly stopped when it approached the shadow. The crisp sound was especially ear-piercing at this moment. The man in the golden cloak was stunned for a moment. He looked over and was shocked to discover that the sacred heart dagger in his hand was being held tightly by another hand. "What?" he cried out in alarm. "Is this all the strength of the people from the Immortal Court?" Su Yun's sinister eyes stared at the gold-cloaked man and said coldly. With that said, he twisted his palm, and an unstoppable and astonishing force was transmitted from the sacred heart dagger to the gold-cloaked man's body. His body trembled violently. How could he still have any hesitation? He immediately released his grip and quickly retreated. Although he had let go of the dagger, he felt that his 5 fingers still had some strength left. It was extremely uncomfortable. Su Yun held onto the body of the sacred heart dagger, stared at the sword, and then casually threw it, causing the dagger to land on the ground. But just as it landed, the snow-white lotus star sword immediately pierced into the body of the sacred heart dagger. The incomparably holy lotus star sword overflowed with a terrifying devil chi and directly imbued into the body of the sacred heart dagger. In just a few breaths of time, the sacred heart dagger immediately turned pitch black, and the connection between the man in the golden cloak and the sacred heart dagger was cut off in that instant. The man in the golden cloak's face changed. Su Yun's move had directly crippled his weapon. Without the sacred heart dagger, could it be that he had to fight barehanded? He looked in that direction. The guardian beast was rushing into the crowd of Immortal Court soldiers, crazily slaughtering them. After going through 2 transformations, the guardian beast's strength had directly broken through the spirit immortal realm, stepping into the profound spirit god realm. It was extremely terrifying. These Immortal Court soldiers could no longer contend against it. At this time, they were completely being slaughtered. The guardian beast's huge claws were swatting randomly. In this narrow space, they could not dodge at all as time passed. The casualties became more and more severe. The Immortal Court was completely in a passive position. The man in the golden cloak did not expect that there would be such a huge change in the battle that was originally in his grasp. It was truly unexpected. After Su Yun crippled the golden cloak man's weapon, he immediately raised the lotus star sword and rushed over. His speed was so fast that no one could detect him, and the man in the golden cloak had only relied on one of his sensory magic treasure to predict Su Yun's position. Otherwise, he would not have been able to determine Su Yun's position. However, Su Yun's speed was simply too fast. Before he could even catch a glimpse of Su Yun's figure, the terrifying white sword was already close to his body. The cold intent of the sword caused all the hair on his body to stand up. The golden-cloaked man's chest was pierced. All of his defenses were useless against that sword. Bang! The sharp sword pierced through his body, and the golden-cloaked man was kicked in the back, causing him to fall to the ground. Powerless. Too powerless. This was his first feeling when facing this devil cultivator. As soon as he landed on the ground, pain assaulted his body, but he gritted his teeth and turned around in the shortest time possible. He counterattacked, Raising both his hands high up in the air, he quickly chanted a strange chant, dazzling heaven and earth. His hand released tens of thousands of golden lights, which turned into sharp arrows and shot toward Su-Yun. But facing the sharp golden arrow, Su-Yun did not dodge or dodge and directly rushed over. The golden arrow pierced his body, but did not leave a single mark and was not a threat at all. Seeing this, the man in the golden cloak instantly understood. The great demon in front of them was so powerful that it was beyond their imagination. Just relying on him, it was simply impossible for them to defeat this existence. Not to mention defeating him, it would be extremely difficult to even injure him. Too late. It was too late. The white sword descended from the sky and directly pierced into the golden-cloaked man's heart, nailing him to the ground. The golden-cloaked man's body trembled a few times as he looked at the person who was stepping on him with dim eyes. Chapter 11:20. Cough, cough, cough. You win. The people of the true devil realm are indeed not the same as they were in the past. The man in the golden cloak coughed twice, his pale face appearing in Su-Yun's line of sight. The current him. His face was ashen, his eyes were dim, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, making him look extremely miserable. Su-Yun stared at him coldly for a moment, then pulled out the sharp blade from his chest and directly slashed at his left and right arms. The man in the golden cloak did not resist. It was unknown if he was powerless to resist or if he was unwilling to resist, but both of his arms were cut off. Fresh blood spurted out crazily. The golden-cloaked man let out a muffled groan as beads of sweat dripped down his forehead. He clenched his teeth as if he was enduring it. Su-Yun stared at the man in the golden cloak, extended his hand again, and directly struck his chest. A burst of devil chi was like a poisonous snake, drilling out from his palm and into the chest of the man in the golden cloak. The man in the golden cloak was invaded by the devil chi, and his body trembled crazily. Not long after, the immortal chi around his body suddenly disappeared, and his entire body powerlessly fell to the ground, twitching from time to time. More and more blood flowed out of his mouth, as if he would stop breathing at any time. He stared with his eyes wide open and shouted with an extremely weak voice, "What did you do to me?" "I broke the immortal meridian in your body," Su-Yun said indifferently. "You." The voice of the man in the golden cloak was trembling. If he had been defeated before, then his heart was about to be defeated now. With his immortal meridian shattered, even if he was saved now, his cultivation would still regress by a lot. Was Su-Yun planning to cripple him? Su-Yun raised his hand from his chest, grabbed his head, and walked forward. The man in the golden cloak wanted to struggle, but what ability did he have to resist Su-Yun? He could only allow himself to be manipulated and be dragged around like a dead dog. Su-Yun dragged the man in the golden cloak with one hand and the lotus star sword in the other, walking towards the guardian beast. At this moment, the guardian beast had just killed the last immortal court soldier. It swung its bloody claws and snorted at the sea of blood. Then, it moved its huge body and turned to Su-Yun's side. "Is it you next? Despicable creature." The guardian beast's voice was deep as it spoke in an extremely unfriendly tone. Su-Yun glanced at it and directly walked inside. "I want you to guard this place and stop anyone who steps into the celestial pond." As he spoke, he dragged the golden, cloaked man towards the entrance of the celestial pond. "How dare you?" The guardian beast was enraged. It immediately raised its sharp claws and fiercely slapped towards Su-Yun. "A despicable creature like you dares to order me around. Damn it." As the roar fell, the sharp claws fell. However, before the claw could even get close to Su-Yun, it was suddenly struck by a burst of devil chi. The terrifying devil chi directly pierced through the guardian beast's palm, causing minced meat to splatter everywhere. The huge palm was sent flying back. The eyes of the golden, cloaked man on the ground instantly widened. How could this be? "Oh!" The guardian beast howled in pain. Both the golden cloaked man and the guardian beast did not expect Su-Yun to be able to destroy the guardian beast's defense in one strike. What exactly is your strength?" The man in the golden cloak seemed to use all his strength to shout out loud. He couldn't see through this guy, so he thought that this guy was just an existence that was a few realms stronger than him. But now, it seemed that he was wrong, and it was a huge mistake. Based on your knowledge, what is the strongest state? Su Yun stared at the guardian beast, dragging the golden cloaked man, and said indifferently. The golden cloaked man was stunned, and a terrifying thought flashed through his mind. Spirit, 10th stage of the spirit, profound god realm? If it was such an existence, then he was practically a god. Immortal was simply unable to describe him. How could this be? An existence at the peak of the spirit, profound god realm would actually appear here? Wasn't this something that was rarely described in legends? The golden cloaked man couldn't believe his own guess. You're so strong. The guardian beast let out a mournful cry and no longer dared to move forward. Instead, it stopped in place and looked at Su Yun vigilantly. Since you know I'm strong, then don't stop me and submit to me. Otherwise, I'll crush you, Su Yun said coldly. The guardian beast immediately prostrated itself, expressing its submission to Su Yun. Previously, when the immortal court's armored soldiers had crushed it, it had never submitted. But now, facing Su Yun, it had surrendered without hesitation, showing the difference in strength. With the guardian beast submitting, it was equivalent to Su Yun obtaining the qualifications to enter the immortal pond. He directly dragged the golden cloaked man into the huge cave. The guardian beast did not dare to stop him in the slightest, and did not even dare to make a sound. Su Yun, who was in the Saint Devil Soul state, was practically an invincible existence. The news from the immortal pond was naturally sent to the immortal court in the shortest amount of time possible, and the immortal court quickly reacted. In fact, the strength of the golden cloaked man was not simple. If Su Yun did not activate the power of the Saint Devil Soul, it would be extremely difficult to deal with him, but it was different now. The Saint Devil Soul had forcefully raised Su Yun to the peak of spirit god, and the golden cloaked man was completely suppressed. He could not use any of his methods, and was extremely powerless against Su Yun. Since the golden cloaked man was unable to control the situation here, then they would most likely send even more powerful existences to support this place. Since these existences had arrived, then Su Yun had to prepare a response as soon as possible. The guardian beast was not weaker than the spirit god, so it should be able to hold on for a while. Time was of the essence. He had to quickly absorb the immortal pond's energy. Thinking about that, Su Yun quickened his pace. After entering the entrance, there was a long diamond tunnel. The tunnel was bright and dazzling, and it led straight to the ground. As Su Yun flew down, he felt waves of moisture assaulting his face. Amidst the moisture, there was a dense aura, but Su Yun had never felt this aura before. It was an indescribable and mysterious aura, and even the immortal chi was not as profound as this. Immortal pond. Below must be the immortal pond. Su Yun was overjoyed and moved even faster. Not long after, crash, a strange sound came out, and before Su Yun could even react, his entire body fell into a clear spring. He was startled and immediately opened his eyes to look around. This seemed to be water. He leaped up and jumped out. Only then did he realize that below the tunnel was a circular paradise, surrounded by strange rocks and flowers, surrounded by clouds and mist. In the center was a pond that emitted a strange aura, and more than 10 meters above was the entrance of the tunnel. Is this the immortal pond? Just then, Ling Qingyu's voice came out from the sword sheath. It's most likely not wrong. Su Yun was overjoyed. He immediately threw the golden cloaked man to the side and used the devil chi to suppress him, then removed the sword sheath and opened it, allowing Su Qing, and Shang Wan Mei Yang to come out. Ling Qingyu had always been paying attention to what was happening outside, but the two girls were unable to pry, so they did not know who Su Yun had fought with just now or what kind of danger he had experienced. The golden cloaked man who was lying on the ground looked at Su Yun with powerless eyes, and when he saw the person who walked out of the sword sheath, his eyes suddenly released a strange light. This sword sheath Could it be the legendary limitless sword sheath? Su Yun did not say a word, and only looked at him indifferently. Young master, who is this person? Su Qing saw the golden-cloaked man whose hand were chopped off, and frowned, and asked in confusion. Hostage? Hostage? Shangguan Mei Yang and Su Qing were startled. Yes, Su Yun said indifferently. The matter of the Immortal Pond is a lucrative job. Since the Immortal Court sent this person, it means that this person has extraordinary power in the Immortal Court, and might even be a trusted aide of a certain master. Keeping him alive might be of some use, so I am not in a hurry to kill him. Hearing that, the two girls nodded. The golden-cloaked man clenched his teeth and shouted weakly, "Do you think that using me as a hostage will be of any use? The people of the Immortal Court will not let you go. The sword of justice will definitely wipe out evil people like you." However, his cries of pain did not have any effect. In this situation, the weak party's words would not have any effect. In this world, there is no such thing as justice or evil. It's just that our standpoints are different. Su Yun said indifferently, and then said to Shangguan Mei Yang and Su Qing, "Time is of the essence. Quickly enter the Immortal Pond." All right. Su Qing did not hesitate. She understood how important the Immortal Pond was to her. As long as she could borrow the power of the Immortal Pond to recover to her previous peak strength, then all the trouble she brought would be eliminated. And at that time, not only would the young master not have to take the risk for her, even the people from the Peerless sect would not have to sacrifice themselves for her. Su Qing immediately jumped into the Immortal Pond, submerging her entire body in the water. Shangguan Meiyang also understood how important the pool was and how difficult it was. Now was not the time to pretend to be polite. Seeing that Su Qing had entered the pool, she immediately jumped in as well. Qingyu. When the two girls entered, Su Yun immediately shouted at Ling Qingyu, who was in the sword sheath. "What's wrong?" Ling Qingyu's voice came out. "Hurry up and enter the pool." "What about you?" "I don't care about you. You go in first. You have to cultivate. Time is of the essence. Hurry." Su Yun immediately shouted. However, Ling Qingyu's determined voice floated out from inside. "I'm sorry, Su Yun, I refuse. I will not enter the Immortal Pond. If you want to enter, then do it now. There's no need to call me in." Hearing that, Su Yun was startled. How many people dreamt of entering it? But why did Ling Qingyu reject it so straightforwardly? Chapter 11:21. There's not enough time. Can you not throw a tantrum? Su Yun was anxious. "I'm not throwing a tantrum. Su Yun, I do not have a high requirement for cultivation because I stay in the sword sheath all year round and do not need to take risks. But you're different. You need to spar with all sorts of strong martial artists, and your thirst for cultivation and power is the strongest. The celestial pool can forcefully increase the strength of an immortal, and to you, it is like a drought meeting sweet dew. Your strength in the immortal realm is still too weak, and just relying on the power of the demon saint and demon soul will not help you overcome any difficulties." Ling Qingyu said seriously. Su Yun frowned and listened, but did not refute. When she finished speaking, Su Yun took a deep breath. "Qingyu, don't worry. I will definitely protect you in the future." "Protect me?" Ling Qingyu was startled and asked subconsciously, "How long?" Su Yun was speechless and did not know what to say. Ling Qingyu then realized that her words were a little rude and immediately said, "Su Yun, don't waste time. Quickly enter the celestial pool, absorb the energy of the celestial pool, and leave this place quickly. If the people from the Immortal Lyceum arrive, it will be troublesome." "Yes." Su Yun nodded, but did not head towards the celestial pool, but flew towards the tunnel. "Su Yun, where are you going?" "I will first set up an enchantment here. The demon saint and demon soul will not last for long. I need to take advantage of the fact that it is still in effect and set up a few enchantments here to stop the people from the Immortal Lyceum from coming." With that, Su Yun rushed towards the entrance of the tunnel, but just as he was about to enter the tunnel, he suddenly stopped. Ling Qingyu looked at him strangely from inside the sword sheath, only to see Su Yun's expression flickering, and he said, "About that, Qingyu, huh? As long as I, Su Yun, am still alive, I will definitely protect you. Su Yun muttered in a low voice, and directly rushed into the tunnel. Ling Qingyu was stunned. A pair of bright eyes pierced through the sword sheath. Looking at the entrance of the tunnel, she did not regain her senses for a long time. After entering the tunnel, Su Yun did not dare to hesitate at all. He immediately activated the devil chi and filled the entrance of the tunnel. At the moment, his devil chi had been forcefully raised by the devil's saint devil soul, so the purity of the devil chi was unbelievable. According to the formation he had learned from the true devil sect, he quickly set up the barrier of the tunnel. After half an incense stick of time, the tunnel was already filled with devil chi. When Su Yun saw that it was about time, he immediately leaped and jumped into the immortal pond. With a plop, he was already inside, and the pond water tightly wrapped around his entire body. The water in this celestial pool was cool and refreshing. When one entered the pool, it was as if he had fallen into a pile of cool, fragrant, and soft cotton. The pool water was like a living creature, constantly rubbing against his body, caressing him, stirring him. It was extremely comfortable. But very quickly, Su Yun sensed that something was wrong. After soaking in the water for about 20 breaths of time, the water actually began to drill into his body. His hands, feet, body, and even his head were all corroded by the water. Even if Su Yun wanted to resist, he would not be able to. In front of the water, the devil chi was practically useless. He felt that the pool water had already pierced through his skin, seeped into his immortal meridian, and directly entered his body. Following the immortal meridian straight towards his immortal eyes, Su Yun was startled. He suddenly opened his eyes. At the moment, his blood-red eyes had become extremely clear. The devil chi around his body had also disappeared without a trace, but a wave of panic and unease suddenly surged in his heart. This situation didn't seem to be right. He turned his head to look at Shangwan Meiyuan and Su Qing'er, only to discover that the two girls were curled up like babies in a placenta, floating in the pool. Their faces were calm, and there was nothing strange about them. Could it be that he was thinking too much? But this feeling, Just then, Su Yun, who was in the pool, suddenly let out a low growl. He opened his mouth, and the pool water immediately poured into his mouth. But he did not care about the pain of choking his throat. The current was completely tormented by the intense pain coming from all over his body. In that instant, all the pool water that wrapped around his body turned into swords, directly tearing apart his skin and flesh. A large amount of black chi leaked out from his body, actually dyeing the surrounding pool water black. On the shore, a white light shot out from the sword sheath, and Ling Qingyu, who was dressed in white and barefooted, appeared at the side of the pool. The gold-cloaked man who was in a distant fainted saw Ling Qingyu and was shocked. What's going on? This guy, Su Yun, the water of the immortal pool, seems to be extremely disgusted with him. Ling Qingyu's face was ugly. She stared at the pond where Su Yun was. After a long while, a complicated look flashed past her eyes. If that's the case, then it's going to be troublesome. The water of the immortal pool was originally blue and translucent, close to white, but after Su Yun entered the pool, not long after, half of the water had actually turned pitch black. The pool water is repelling. Yes, it must be repelling. Ling Qing, you seem to have noticed something. She immediately bent down and shouted towards the pool water. Su Yun, quickly come out. The water of the immortal pool is repelling you. Quickly come out. But Ling Qingyu's shouts were useless. Su Yun was completely submerged in the black water. There was no movement at all, but from the low and deep sounds that came out from the black water, it could be deduced that Su Yun was in extreme pain. Su Yun! Su Yun! Ling Qingyu shouted once again. But it was of no use at all. Immediately, she, who was extremely anxious, planned to go into the water and fish Su Yun out. Boom! Just then, a shocking explosion suddenly sounded out from the other end of the tunnel. Following that, the space around the immortal pool started to shake crazily. Ling Qingyu was startled, and then her face changed. The golden-cloaked man who was lying on the ground with an ashen face sensed that something was amiss. His eyes immediately shone with a golden light as he shouted, The people from the immortal court are here. They're here. They're here. His face was filled with excitement and pride, as if he had already seen the people of the immortal court take down these despicable people. Hearing that, Ling Qingyu immediately looked towards the tunnel. From the inside of the pitch-black tunnel came a series of loud roars, as if it was the voice of the guardian beast. Its voice was filled with too much pain and wails. As if it had suffered an extremely fierce blow, waves of destructive aura also seeped out from the cracks in the tunnel. Ling Qingyu closed her eyes, feeling the destructive aura, her face revealing a serious expression. Puffed. At this moment, an extremely ear-piercing sound came out. Immediately after, the guardian beast's voice stopped, and not a single sound could be heard. Had transformed. No, if it transformed again, the guardian beast's strength would reach the peak of the spirit god realm. It was impossible for the immortal pool to create such a terrifying existence, so there was only one possibility. The guardian beast had been killed. As expected, dripping sounds could be heard in the tunnel. It was the blood of the guardian beast. The guardian beast that had previously displayed an extremely valiant performance against the thousands of armored soldiers was killed in a short period of time. Then, just how powerful were the people from the immortal court that came this time? Very quickly, a large number of crashing sounds could be heard in the tunnel. Ling Qingyu leaped and went close to the entrance of the tunnel. Looking inside, she realized that the devil chi that Su Yun had left behind was trembling crazily. What kind of expert had come? It had only been half an incense stick of time, and he had already destroyed the guardian beast? Ling Qingyu stared at the devil chi enchantment in the tunnel. It had to be said that the enchantment that Su Yun had set up with his strength at the peak of the spirit god realm was extremely sturdy. Although the devil chi was surging, the enchantment did not show any signs of loosening, and this was something that Su Yun had set up in a hurry. If he had set it up seriously, the experts of the immortal court outside would not have been able to do anything. These enchantments should be harder to deal with than the guardian beasts. Ling Qingyu snorted, and no longer bothered with him. She directly landed on the side of the pool and quietly looked at Su Yun, who was in the pool. In this period of time, Shangwan Meiyang and Su Qing'er should be able to come out of seclusion in time, but Su Yun was different. At the moment, he was being repelled by the pool water, but he still wanted to forcefully absorb the pool water and obtain the power of the immortal pool. This was the opposite of what he should do, and Ling Qingyu was extremely worried. Gradually, the pitch-black pool water suddenly started to bubble. At the moment, the pool water was extremely strange. Su Yun's side was in turmoil, with bubbles constantly popping up, while Shangwan Meiyang and Su Qing'er's side were extremely calm, and even the pool water was extremely clear. This was a typical example of light and darkness. Ling Qingyu stared at the boiling half of the pool water and was a little absent-minded. She bent down and extended her finger out, wanting to touch it. However, just as her fingertips touched the pool water, the limitless sword sheath that was quietly lying on the ground behind her suddenly trembled violently. Ling Qingyu's body tensed up. As if she had been electrocuted, she retracted her jade-like fingers. She held on to her fingers, bit her lips, and turned her fair neck to look at the pool water and sighed softly. Dong! At this moment, a light explosion sounded out from the tunnel. It seemed that the first barrier had been broken. The joy on the face of the golden cloak grew stronger and stronger. However, he did not know that Su Yun had set down dozens of enchantments. If they were to follow the immortal court's speed, they would only be able to reach them when the pool water dried up. Ling Qingyu did not care about the commotion outside the tunnel. She did not even look at it. Her gaze was fixed on the pool water. After an unknown period of time, she seemed to have made a decision. She suddenly turned around and entered the sword sheath. Su Yun, who was under the pool water, was completely naked. The divine power of the imperial battle robe had been completely corroded, and at the moment, it was attached to Su Yun's body in its weakest state, while most of the magic treasure on Su Yun's body had been corroded and destroyed by the pool water. Chapter 1122. With the water of the immortal pool, one could enjoy the favor of the heavens, receive blessings, leap to the peak, and become the ruler of all ages. No one could explain what was going on with the immortal pool. Was it a naturally formed blessed land? Or was it a treasure deliberately bestowed by some great lord to all living beings? However, in front of the miraculous effects of the immortal pool, no one cared about its origins. People were only concerned about how to enter the immortal pool, how to enjoy the immortal pool, and how to become the Lord that all living beings worshipped. Although Su Yun had spent a lot of effort to enter the immortal pool and enjoy it, he felt that there was something wrong with him using the immortal pool. From Su Qing'er and Shangwan Mei Yang's expressions, they did not seem to have any rejection towards the immortal pool and were even extremely comfortable. They were sleeping quietly, as if they were being nurtured in their mother's womb, without any movement, and judging from their skin that was gradually glowing, they were receiving the transformation of the immortal pool water, and their strength and cultivation were constantly increasing. But Su Yin was completely different. At this moment, he could not feel the slightest bit of comfort from head to toe. Perhaps this situation had nothing to do with comfort at all. His entire body had been replaced by endless pain. He felt as if every part of his body was being bitten by a venomous snake. It was incomparably painful, and the blood in his body was stirring crazily, like boiling water boiling in his blood vessels. How could this be? It was completely different from what he had said before. Su Yin did not know that the immortal pool would choose people. His face was distorted, his entire body was trembling in the water. His skin was sometimes blood red, sometimes pale white. It was truly magical. At the moment, Su Yun's thoughts were completely drowned by the pain. He felt his mind go blank. He only wanted to leave the immortal pool, but every time he wanted to use his last bit of willpower to move, he realized that he could not move at all. After going through so much trouble to come here, he was going to give up because of this pain? This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and he was going to let it slip away just like that? Su Yin would not agree, nor would he be willing. He did not want to do anything that he regretted anymore. Whiz! Suddenly, a ray of black light flashed past his blank mind. It was like a bolt of lightning flashing across the pitch-black night sky. The contrast was extremely strong. Su Yun was startled. His tightly shut eyes immediately opened. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he noticed that he was unable to see anything, because everything in his surroundings was pitch black without the slightest bit of light, and this place was in complete chaos. Gurgle, 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 gurgle. There seemed to be a strange sound coming from the unseen world. Was it the sound of water? Su Yin did not know, but felt that the voice was extremely strange. However, the water in this pool was stagnant, so how could there be such a sound? Furthermore, the sound seemed to be coming from inside her ears rather than from outside. Give up. At this moment, another voice floated out. Hoarse, heavy, and an indescribable sense of vicissitudes. Su Yin was sure that he was not hallucinating. He endured the pain, clenched his teeth, and growled. Who are you? The holy water of heaven and earth is not to be used by anyone who has been tainted by filthy blood. The voice sounded again, but this time it was filled with intense anger. Tainted blood? Demon blood? Demon blood is filthy? Didn't they say that the water of the celestial pool can be used by humans, devils, ghosts, and demons? Why can't the devil cultivator use it? Su Yun clenched his teeth and suddenly bellowed angrily. The more you don't let me use it, the more I want to use it. People are born to be fair, and the unfairness in this world is all man-made. Since you want to be unfair to me, I will break this injustice. With that said, Su Yun immediately opened all the pores on his body, intending to directly absorb the power of the pool water. However, the more he opened his pores, the more he removed the defenses on his body, the more pain the pool water brought him. Previously, it was only continuous, but now, it was as if it had exploded. The pain became greater and greater, and it became more and more unbearable. Su Yin opened his mouth and roared, but the moment he opened his mouth, the pool water immediately rushed in, following his throat towards his abdomen. In that moment, Su Yin felt as if he had swallowed a knife. It was extremely painful, as if everything in his body was being twisted. He almost fainted from the pain. and his consciousness was on the verge of collapse. He did not know what death was like, but he had a feeling that if this continued, he would die. Give up! Give up! The voice sounded again, but this time it was more impatient. Su-Yun's consciousness, which was about to collapse, suddenly woke up when he heard the voice. He clenched his teeth that were about to shatter. Originally, he was about to be unable to hold on any longer, but when this voice came out, it made him have the urge to not admit defeat. He was such a person, the more he wanted to give up, the more he would not give up. He opened his mouth and used the last of his strength to let out a final roar. The pool water crazily poured into his mouth, and he felt as if his throat was about to be torn apart, but he did not care about this. He resisted like a madman. No matter how painful it was, he did not want to give in, no matter how unfair it was. Blood flowed out of his broken body. The blood was like magma, causing the water in the pool to boil. Gulp, 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 more and more bubbles appeared, and the water in the pool became hotter and hotter. Not long after, with a dong sound, the pool water exploded. The golden-cloaked man who was lying on the side of the immortal pool had a pale face. His eyes revealed a trace of fear as he looked at the pool water. The half of the pool water turned into a whirlpool, continuously flowing towards the center. It was extremely terrifying, and the sound at the bottom of the pool gradually disappeared. What's going on? What's going on? The golden-cloaked man felt that something was wrong. He tried his best to stand up. He had lost both of his arms. His immortal meridian was broken. The current him had very little strength. But in the period of time that Su-Yun had been in the immortal pool, he had obtained a bit of a buffer, allowing his body to have a short period of recovery, even though he could not recover much. But it allowed him to have some ability to move. After standing up, he looked at his arms. After breaking them, he needed to use his Fa Li to stimulate them. But with his immortal meridian broken, he could no longer use any immortal chi. Otherwise, the immortal chi would directly overflow from the broken immortal meridian and attack his internal organs. At that time, he would not even be able to protect his internal organs, and his body would immediately explode and die. But this place was already like this. The tunnel entrance was completely sealed by Su-Yun's devil chi, and the only exit was blocked. There was no other way to get out of this place, and since he could not get out, he was trapped here. The golden-cloaked man clenched his teeth, his gaze once again returning to the white and black that had been replaced by the two colors of the immortal pool. He stared at the pitch-black pool water, his eyes filled with rage. Dirty and despicable person. Do you want to use me as a hostage in exchange for your own life? Your thoughts are too naive. He moved a few steps to the side, his gaze once again turning to the pure white pool water, and his eyes shook. Since the water of the immortal pool can greatly increase one's cultivation and allow one to leap to the peak, then it must have a miraculous effect. If I enter the immortal pool, my cultivation will increase, and I might even be able to repair the damage in my body, or even improve my cultivation. Thinking of this, the golden-cloaked man immediately moved towards the unpolluted pool water. Idiot, the immortal pool can only hold 3 people. The 4th person cannot enter. The immortal pool has a capacity. If it exceeds this capacity, it will only backfire, and you will suffer the consequences of your own actions. Just then, Ling Qingyu's voice came out from the sword sheath. But the golden-cloaked man did not care about Ling Qingyu's words, or rather, he did not believe Ling Qingyu's words at all. From the start to the end, he believed that this was his only way out. Crash! The golden-cloaked man jumped in. Water splashed. He did his best to flip around in the water and then popped his head out of the water. He looked at his own body and felt that after entering the water, the pain that pervaded his body seemed to have disappeared in an instant, and what replaced it was an intoxicating comfort. His arms became numb, and the wounds on his body started to squirm, as though they were healing, and everything was looking brand new. Is this healing? It's really healing? It's healing. The golden-cloaked man was overjoyed and laughed out loud. Ha, it's healing. I wasn't tricked. I wasn't tricked. Everything is real. The water of the immortal pool truly has a miraculous effect. Ha 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 ha. What? Ling Qingyu let out a sound of surprise, but very quickly, she did not make a sound. The golden-cloaked man enjoyed the benefits of the immortal pool water and looked at the sword sheath with a pleased gaze and mocked. You want to trick me? It's not that easy. Wait for me to heal my arms and the immortal meridians in my body. Then I will go ashore and take down the 3 filthy sinners in the pool. Ha ha! So just then, a strange sound came out from the side, and for the black half of the pool, 3 streams of black smoke that looked like flood dragons suddenly shot out and directly wrapped around the golden-cloaked man. The golden-cloaked man was startled, and before he could react, he was pulled away by a gigantic force and was directly pulled towards the black half of the pool. What is this? What is this? Let me go! Let me go! The golden-cloaked man struggled frantically, both of his legs flailing nonstop. But it was useless. The black smoke was like the hands of a god, and he could not break free at all. He screamed at the top of his lungs. The pleased look in his eyes had long disappeared, and what replaced it was fear. But no matter how he screamed, it was useless. What? The golden-cloaked man was directly dragged into the darkness, and very quickly, there was no more sound. Chapter 11:23. Whiz! A ray of light floated out from the sword sheath, and Ling Qingyu's body once again appeared beside the pool. She looked at the pitch-black pool, her eyes filled with worry and complexity, but she did not make a sound for a long time. Clang! Just then, another muffled sound came out from the other end of the tunnel. The entire tunnel shook a little. The devil chi inside was already in a mess. The enchantment that Su Yun had set down had also loosened a lot. From the looks of it, the Immortal Court had increased their attacks on the tunnel entrance. At this rate, in less than 2 days, the entire tunnel entrance would be opened. If something unexpected happened, it might not even be 2 days. Ling Qingyu frowned. She turned to look at the 3 people in the pool. From the looks of it, Su Qing'er and Shangwan Mei Yang should be able to complete their transformations soon. But Su Yun was completely unaware of the situation. Ling Qingyu did not even know what had happened to him, and did not dare to go into the pool to spy on Su Yun's current situation. The water of the celestial pool was too mystical. Not to mention him, even a large group of people from the Immortal Court outside would not be able to do anything about it. Ling Qingyu frowned and thought for a moment. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something. She walked to the side of the sword sheath and picked it up, then leaped to the side of the tunnel. Her white hands directly touched the inside of the sword sheath. Following that, a pitch-black, hair-like substance flowed out from the sword sheath and coiled around her sparkling and translucent jade fingers. She suddenly raised her hand and slapped towards the barrier beside the tunnel. She did not form any hand seals, nor did she chant any incantations. The pitch-black hair-like substance was directly struck onto the barrier by her, as though it was embedded inside. Swish! A strange sound rang out. The hair-like substance quickly arranged itself on the barrier, and after a few breaths of time, it actually turned into a pitch-black small sword. It was very strange. After the small sword was formed, Ling Qingyu heaved a sigh of relief. She immediately turned and jumped back into the sword sheath, and the sword sheath in the air also fell down, gently lying by the side of the pool. Dong! A violent sound came out again. A few beams of red light shot down from the sky, directly hitting the tunnel entrance that wasn't too big and was filled with sparkling diamonds. A giant man, nearly 3 meters tall, was standing outside the entrance, looking at the hundreds of people of the Immortal Court who were busy with their work. The man's face was covered with a mask, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He wore dark blue heavy armor, and on his back was an incomparably huge dark steel immortal sword. His dark red cloak formed a clear contrast with the beams of light. Behind this gigantic man, there were over 10,000 armored Immortal Court experts. A solemn aura floated around the entrance. These armored soldiers were like statues, standing motionlessly around the entrance. No one spoke, and no one made any unnecessary movements. Everyone just watching everything at the entrance. The immortals at the entrance also seemed to feel the pressure from the tens of thousands of armored soldiers. All of them gritted their teeth and worked overtime, continuously activating their spells to break the barrier that sealed the tunnel entrance. However, these enchantments were too strong. Even though Su Yun had used them in a hurry, their strength was still enough to make people speechless. After all, Su Yun was at the peak of the spirit god realm back then, and at that level of strength, he was almost equivalent to a god. How could an ordinary immortal contend against him? The hundreds of people who had broken the seal felt extremely pressured and could only do their best. The general stared at the progress at the entrance. After a long time, he snorted, and his voice was as loud as iron. Why hasn't it been broken yet? When the red-robed man in charge of breaking the enchantment heard this, he anxiously ran over, knelt down on one knee, and cupped his fists, reporting to my lord, "The enchantment seal at the entrance is extremely strong, although it is not an exquisite enchantment. But the caster's cultivation is so strong that it makes one's hair stand on end, according to this subordinate's estimation from the aura of the enchantment. The caster's strength should be above the spirit god rank." Spirit god? The general snorted and pushed the red-robed man away. With heavy steps, he walked toward the entrance. Could it be that the people of the immortal court are afraid of an existence like the spirit god? Could it be that the brothers behind me are afraid of the power that does not belong to the immortal court in this world? "My lord," the red-robed man hurriedly called out. On the contrary, he stared at the entrance and strode forward. As he drew the heavy sword from his back, he shouted in a low voice, "Take out the 1,000 illusion curse." 1,000 illusion curse? Was it used here? This was given to us by that lord to deal with the evil people inside. What is it? You mean to say that I'm not dealing with those evil people right now? No, that's not what I meant. It's just that the Lord said that once the other party comes out of the immortal pool, their strength will increase greatly, and it will be extremely difficult to keep them here. This is the most suitable time to use the 1,000 illusion curse, but if we use it now, I've estimated the time. If we open the tunnel barrier now, we can enter the immortal pool before they come out of the immortal pool. If that's the case, it will be extremely easy to deal with these despicable people who don't know what's good for them. The 1,000 illusion curse will also play its role. If we continue to slowly break the formation here, once they all come out of the immortal pool, how can we break it with just the 1,000 illusion curse? Furthermore, Qi Jin is still in their hands. Don't tell me that you don't value the lives of the immortal court's envoys, the armored general said in a deep voice. With that said, the red-robed man had nothing to say to refute. He dared not disobey the order of the immortal court. Moreover, this operation involved the life of an immortal court's envoy and also the reputation of the immortal court. If they couldn't solve this problem well, they would have to bear a great responsibility. In the end, he nodded and sighed. He reached into the interspatial bag hanging on his waist and retrieved a white scroll that was tied with colorful ribbons. Then he headed straight for the entrance. When the people at the entrance saw the red-robed man walking towards them with such an item in his hand, their expressions changed slightly, and they quickly dispersed. In this world, anyone who dares to challenge the laws of the immortal court must be punished by the law. No one will allow him to escape. The law must correct his twisted soul. As the armored general spoke, he raised his heavy sword up high. The red-robed man closed his eyes and held the strange scroll with both hands. He began chanting. The scroll emitted a colorful light. It was extremely magical. A mysterious divine power overflowed from the inside of the scroll. The armored general raised the sword high up and stared at the thick sword with eagle-like eyes. Suddenly, he let out a long roar. The sharp sword emitted a sky-piercing sword light that pierced through the sky. The red-robed man muttered to himself for a while, then threw the scroll in his hand into the air. The scroll flew through the air like a fairy, sprinkling 1,000 rays of light. When it flew above the thick sword trembled violently. It was restless, and the armored general almost couldn't hold it in his hand. Whoosh! At this time, the thick sword suddenly left his hand with a whoosh, and like an arrow, it pierced towards the colorful scroll hovering in the air. Buffed! The scroll was pierced through. However, the moment the scroll was pierced through, The blade of the thick sword immediately overflowed with colorful radiance. It was like the sword of creation, splendid and magnificent. The armored man stood motionlessly at the entrance, his eyes fixed on the entrance. The red-robed man and the other people of the immortal court retreated hastily, staring at the colorful sword in the air with fear in their eyes. The aura had already dispersed. The sword spun in the air for a while, and the scroll on the blade was burning rapidly. The more it burned, the brighter the light on the blade became. Finally, the thick sword made a circle and directly pointed the blade downwards, aiming at the entrance, and fiercely stabbing towards it. The void trembled. The surrounding immortals retreated hastily, afraid that they would be affected. The sharp sword fell straight down, smashing down with irresistible force. Boom! An earth-shattering sound reverberated throughout the entire immortal pool. A large amount of colorful radiance seeped into the tunnel. Ling Qingyu, who was standing in the sword sheath behind the tunnel, saw the colorful radiance piercing into the tunnel. The demonic qi and enchantment in the tunnel were like flames that were drowned by water. All of them were extinguished. The enchantment was broken without any hesitation. Ling Qingyu frowned. She stared at the colorful radiance and seemed to have thought of something. This power is interesting. I never thought that the people of the immortal court would have such power. Interesting. But do you think this is enough? Ling Qingyu muttered, but the rainbow light had already purged all of the demonic qi inside and outside the tunnel, and a heavy greatsword pierced out from the entrance of the tunnel, straight towards the other end. But just as the greatsword was about to pierce through the tunnel and exit from the other end, clang! An ear-piercing sound came out. 7 pitch-black light, short swords suddenly appeared at the exit of the tunnel. These short swords gathered together and formed a sword wall, blocking the huge sword that was thrusting over. The fierce greatsword broke through all enchantments, but against the pitch-black short swords, it was powerless. What? The armored general and the red-robed man at the entrance were shocked. How could they believe what they had just seen? There's actually something that can block a godly sword that was strengthened by the 1,000 illusory curse? That's impossible. The armored general's expression was extremely heavy. He bellowed. Chapter 1124. The huge heavy sword was still bombarding downwards, but the pitch-black small swords were firmly blocking the heavy sword's path. Although the heavy sword was huge and powerful, it seemed to be unable to exert any force in the face of the small swords. It couldn't advance even half an inch. How could this be? Who cast this sword formation? The armored general stared at the sword formation. Suddenly, he vaguely sensed something. He quickly turned around and yelled at the red-robed man behind him. Use the shadow exorcism divine art. Yes. The red-robed man nodded. Xian quickly took out a red pagoda from her spatial bag and tossed it downwards. The pagoda flew downwards and suddenly began to spin crazily. A snow-white light shot out from the bottom of the pagoda. The light was like a sharp arrow, directly hitting the tiny swords. It was like a dark night that was about to brighten up. However, the snow-white light shone over, but it did not have any effect. The light did not even brighten the black swords. The red-robed man and the armored general's expressions darkened. What? What is this thing? The armored general murmured. He thought it was just a spell cast by a demon. Although there was no devil chi, it was full of murderous intent. However, when he took a closer look, it did not seem to be the case. Sir, what should we do now? The red-robed man asked. The armored general gritted his teeth. He stared at the thick sword that was still in a stalemate with the tiny black swords. Suddenly, he moved and charged down with a roar. He held the sword hilt with both hands and madly pushed, trying to use brute force to break through the obstruction of the black swords. Finally, the tiny swords trembled slightly. However, it was only trembling. It was still a long way from breaking through. Damn it! The armored general was even more furious. His roar almost shattered the tunnel. The thick sword seemed to have sensed its master's unwillingness. It trembled violently. A powerful sword chi shot out from the thick sword and collided with the black swords like a raging storm. Ding, ding, clang, clang. The black swords made crisp sounds when they were hit. The sound was especially ear-piercing, but it would not be pierced through. Although the thick sword was extremely powerful, it was useless against the black swords. Who was the one who used this sword formation? What kind of cultivation would be able to do that? The armored man could not stop himself from doubting his own strength. He began doubting his own immortal artifact. He even began doubting the 1,000 illusion mantra. He could feel the unconcealable power of the thick sword. Anyone below the 7th stage of the spirit profound immortal realm would not be able to withstand a single strike from the thick sword, and it was even possible for them to be instantly killed. But not only did the sword formation withstand the attack, it even formed an absolute defense, such that it was unable to advance any further. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! The armored general let out a furious roar. The veins on his body bulged, and his eyes turned bloodshot. "Sir, don't go on like this. There's no effect at all." The red-robed man at the side finally couldn't stand it anymore and hurriedly went over to shout, "No effect? What do you think we should do?" The armored general turned his head and glared at the red-robed man as he roared, "Can't we just enter the celestial pool from another place?" The red-robed man said hurriedly. With that said, the armored general's expression immediately congealed. He frowned and asked in a low voice, "Another place? Is there another way out of this celestial pool?" "No, but we can open a path." The red-robed man leaned forward and carefully observed the sword formation. Finally, his sharp eye saw the pitch-black sword imprint at the side and immediately said, "This black sword formation might be the work of the devil cultivator, but look, through this sword formation, the one behind should be the celestial pool. The water of the celestial pool is half black. Most likely the devil cultivator has already entered the celestial pool, which means that there is no one else in the celestial pool. No one will stop us from doing anything, since we can't break this sword formation. Why don't we save our strength and open up another path?" "Open up another path? How?" The armored general frowned. The red-robed man frowned. His gaze turned, sweeping across the tunnel wall at the side, then leaned over, extended his hand, and knocked on the tunnel wall a few times, then said in a low voice, "General, why don't you use your sky-splitting sword to break this place?" "How about it? Break this place?" Hearing this, the armored general immediately understood the red-robed man's meaning. The black sword formation's defense was so strong that it made one's hair stand on end, but this tunnel was different. Regardless of whether the celestial pool was natural or man-made, it wasn't indestructible. "I understand." The armored general nodded, raised his hand, and shouted, "All of you retreat." "Yes." The red-robed man cupped his fists and shouted, "All of you retreat. Quickly. All of you retreat. Orders from the Lord. All of you retreat." The immortal court immortals at the entrance of the tunnel immediately teleported backward. Within a breath's time, not a single person was left a kilometer away from the tunnel, and the red-robed man also left in an instant. Once these people retreated, the armored general immediately took action. He stared at the wall on the right, his expression becoming ferocious, his already thick arms bulging once more, as if they would explode at any moment. The power flowed from his arms to the huge sky-splitting sword in his hand, causing it to tremble violently, letting out an ear-piercing wong-wong-wong sound. "With my will as thy strength, with my body as thy arm, with my soul as thy eyes, with my heart as thy actions." Slash! The armored general roared, his voice like a bell, his movements like lightning. Following the frenzied movement of his arms, the huge sky-splitting sword changed direction, smashing towards the wall on the side. Boom! The entire celestial pond began to tremble. Even the space around the celestial pond began to tremble violently. Ripples began to spread in all directions with the celestial pond at the center. Immortal court. What? Gongsun Lang was slain by Qi Jin? The head of the Ministry of Resources, Chun Xinxing, cried out in shock as he stared at Zun Li, who was walking towards him. "I just received news from above. Your no-ranked envoy, Gongsun Lang, went to the celestial pool without permission, sabotaged the celestial pool plan, and attempted to enter the celestial pool." he was discovered by Lord Qi Jin, and because he refused to confess, he was punished according to the laws of the immortal court. Zunli held a golden scroll in his hand, his voice cold as he spoke. He walked over and threw the scroll on the ground. Chun Xinxing hurriedly picked up the scroll and unfurled it, reading its contents. A moment later, his face was filled with shock. Zunli stared coldly at Chun Xinxing. He snorted and said, "Lord Chun, someone said that you take good care of this Gong Sun Lang. I wonder how this ambassador without any rank caught your attention? What if he was a gifted one? Or was there something special about him?" "Gong Sun Lang's talent is not bad. I admire him," Chun Xinxing answered without hesitation. Unexpectedly, Zunli already knew that he would say this, and snorted. "Not bad? If his talent is not bad, why has his cultivation stagnated after entering the immortal court? Other than learning some immortal court cultivation methods, his strength has not improved at all. Moreover, the cultivation methods of the immortal court that he has learned are only half-baked. Is this his aptitude not bad?" Chun Xinxing was speechless when he heard this. "Lord Chun, you and I are both working in the immortal court. We eat the same bowl of rice. Let me give you a piece of advice. Be honest and be lenient. Everything that everyone in the immortal court does is recorded by the heaven's eye. You can hide it from me, but you can't hide it from the higher-ups. Gong Sun Lang is only a no-ranked envoy. How would he know the location of the celestial pool? If the higher-ups did not tell him, how would he know?" "Lord Zunli, what do you mean?" Chun Xinxing was enraged and shouted, "Are you saying that I told Gong Sun Lang the location of the celestial pool? I told him to go to the celestial pool alone? I am a member of the immortal court. I know the rules of the immortal court. How could I do such a stupid thing?" "Lord Chun, don't be agitated. I'm just saying I didn't say anything about you," Zunli said indifferently. "However, we do need to investigate how Gong Sun Lang knew about this secret. I can accept the mind-reading test. I really didn't tell Gong Sun Lang about this. As for Gong Sun Lang, I'll be honest, is actually my illegitimate son outside." "Oh? Is there such a thing? Then he entered the immortal court because of you?" "Yes." Chun Xinxing clenched his teeth and admitted it. As the main person in charge of Gong Sun Lang, he would definitely accept the mind-reading test of the immortal court. He couldn't even hide the secret in his heart. Instead of that, he might as well admit it. Perhaps there was still a chance for him to turn the situation around. Zunli's lips curled into a vague smile when he heard this, and said indifferently, "Let's put aside the matter of you abusing your power for now. We should deal with the celestial pool first. If you really didn't tell Gong Sun Lang about the celestial pool, then this matter is not as simple as we thought. With Gong Sun Lang's ability, he wouldn't be able to get his hands on such a secret. I think he most likely has someone's help." Chun Xinxing was shocked when he heard this. "Someone's help? Lord Zunli, you mean there might be a traitor in the immortal court?" It's too early to come to a conclusion. Before Chun Xinxing could finish, Zunli interrupted him. He said slowly, "But the higher-ups have handed this matter to me. I'll be in charge of the investigation. Whether there is a traitor or not, it's not a bad thing to investigate it, but I still need Lord Chen's cooperation." "Don't worry. Since it's Lord's order, Xinxing will definitely cooperate." Chun Xinxing's heart was in a mess. He couldn't care less about the purpose of Zunli's actions. He only hoped that Qi Jin would leave his soul behind when he killed Gong Sun Lang. But at this moment, Zunli suddenly saw something. He took a few steps forward and went to a bookshelf behind Chun Xinxing. "Lord Zunli, you—" Chun Xinxing frowned. He saw Zunli taking out a piece of red cloth from the pile of books on the bookshelf. Seeing this, the two's faces turned ugly. Chapter 11:25. Dong, 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 dong. Terrifying sounds of explosions rang out continuously. The heavy sword was like a huge axe that could split open a mountain, crazily hacking at the walls that seemed to be made of diamonds. The walls of the tunnel were hacked recklessly, and the sword chi splashed everywhere. After half a day, cracks had already appeared on the walls of the tunnel. Seeing this, the armored general was extremely happy. Even though he was panting heavily, his strength seemed to be inexhaustible, and he continued to hack at the walls. The red-robed man outside the tunnel stared at the entrance below. The ground around the entrance was completely shattered. It could be seen how powerful the armored general was. At this rate, he would be able to forcefully open a path into the celestial pond in less than a day. While the above was hacking at the walls, the celestial pond was completely silent. At this moment, the small celestial pond was like a Taiji yin and yang diagram. One side was black and the other was white. The black side was pitch black, and it was chaotic. The white side was so clear that the bottom could be seen, and the two jade-like figures could be seen through the water. After an unknown period of time, the person under the celestial pond suddenly moved. Shangwan Mei Yang's eyes suddenly opened a little. Immediately after, her curled-up body trembled a few times, and her snow-white skin blossomed with halos. She seemed to have woken up. When she opened her eyes according to her will, the strange diamond barrier above directly shot down a white light. It passed through the celestial pond water and shone on her body, completely enveloping her. In that instant, the snow-white light shone so brightly that her body could no longer be seen clearly. Shangwan Meiyang only felt that her body was floating, as if her soul was about to leave her body. In the unseen world, there seemed to be a voice entering her ears, directly entering her soul. She could see that the half of the celestial pond water that was not polluted suddenly dropped by a quarter, and then the light gradually disappeared. Shangwan Mei Yang's entire body sank to the bottom of the water, but she did not curl up her body, and instead directly stood at the bottom of the water. She felt that her entire body was incomparably warm, and her entire body was filled with a mysterious power. She did not know what her current cultivation was, but she could feel that the current her was very different from before. A ray of light shot out from the sword sheath, and Ling Qingyu appeared at the side of the immortal pool again. Shangwan Mei Yang flew out of the pool and landed at the side of the immortal pool, but her body was not wet at all. Sister Qingyu. Shangwan Mei Yang bowed. Seems like you have successfully obtained the fortune of the celestial pool. Ling Qingyu nodded. All of this is thanks to Su Yun. If not for his help, how could I have such good fortune? Shangwan Mei Yang said. She turned her gaze and looked at the surface of the pond, only to realize that half of the water had become pitch black. Immediately, Shangwan Mei Yang's small face paled and exclaimed, "What's going on? This should be related to the blood in Su Yun's body. I can't explain it clearly." Ling Qingyu said indifferently, "Mei Yang, quickly sit down and meditate. Although you have obtained a fortune of the immortal pool, your foundation is still too weak, and the fortune you obtained is not much, and the fortune you obtained from the immortal pool does not instantly raise your strength to the peak, but has a digestion process, and this digestion process is also different from person to person. Some people can completely digest it in a day or two and directly obtain their peak strength, while some people might need 3 to 5 years, or even dozens of years, or even hundreds of years. Mei Yang, although your foundation is still shallow, your talent is extremely good, and it shouldn't take too much time to digest all of this fortune. Just digest it, and every time you digest it, you will be able to increase your strength by a bit. And the people of the Immortal Court are already approaching. If you want to leave this place, you will need to use thunderous methods, and everyone will have to contribute." Hearing that, Shangwan Mei Yang nodded. She immediately sat down cross-legged and meditated. Shangwan Mei Yang's foundation was still shallow, and she would not be able to stay in the immortal pool for long, but Su Qing'er and Su Yun were different. Su Yun had obtained good fortune, and his cultivation was deep, especially his immortal and devil power, which was even more unimaginable. It was not strange for anything to happen to him after he entered the immortal pool, and Su Qing'er was the reincarnation of a supreme expert and had a divine body, which was even more extraordinary. Ling Qingyu gasped for breath. Looking at the tunnel wall that was still emitting loud noises, she sighed, turned, and returned to the sword sheath. "The rest, you can only rely on yourselves. Su Yun, I hope you can successfully pass this trial." Dong! Kacha the cracks grew larger and larger, like a spider web. If it was in the past, Shangwan Mei Yang would have jumped in fright when she heard such a commotion. The experts of the Immortal Court had unleashed such a terrifying attack. Just the sound alone was enough to cause her to bleed from all 7 orifices. But now, not only did she not feel anything, her heart was as calm as water, as though she would not care even if the heavens and earth were to collapse outside. This kind of feeling she had never felt before, this kind of realm, this kind of strength. This was also the first time she had come into contact with it. Shangguan Meiyang had a thought that she had never had before. After an unknown period of time, her body once again released a white light, and the aura around her body became even more graceful. Boom! The barrier at the side of the tunnel had already completely cracked open. The crack was at least a few inches wide, and the sound was still coming out. From the looks of it, in another half a day, the people of the Immortal Court would be able to break open a tunnel and enter this place. Shangguan Meiyang took a deep breath and stood up. She could already feel the immortal qi that was leaking out from the experts of the Immortal Court, following the crack and spreading in this direction. She was also fully prepared. According to this trend, perhaps she would have to face the following matters alone. Although she had obtained the favor of the Immortal Court, she was still extremely nervous. The celestial pool had injected a lot of power into her, but this time it was the almighty beings of the Immortal Court. Even the guardian beast outside did not last long. How could she face it alone? Although the celestial pool was mystical, it was not that heaven-defying. Whiz. After an unknown period of time, when the crack had expanded to the width of a finger, the celestial pool changed again. Suddenly, a rainbow-colored light descended from above the celestial pool, directly enveloping Qing Er's body. The rainbow-colored light was like a miracle, dyeing the entire celestial pool in a multicolored light. It was extremely gorgeous. Shangguan Meiyang turned her head to look, and her face immediately revealed joy. This sign, could it be that Qing Er is about to come out? If he could successfully absorb the energy of the celestial pool water, he would definitely transform, his strength would increase, and he might be able to rely on this method to survive. The light lasted for a long time and did not dissipate for a long time, and it was extremely dense. Shangguan Meiyang stood guard at the side, but seeing that the tunnel barrier was already on the verge of collapse, she was more vigilant at the moment. At the entrance of the tunnel, the red-robed man had already flown in because the armored general had stopped attacking the tunnel. Through the cracks of the sword formation and the tunnel, they could already see the changes happening inside. Previously, there was already one person who flew out from the celestial pool, and now that the rainbow light has appeared again, I'm afraid that another person is about to be reborn from the celestial pool. General, you have used up too much of your cultivation and physical strength. If you were to rashly enter like this, I'm afraid you will suffer. You're right. The armored general was obviously also very afraid, and said in a low voice, "Wait a moment. Wait for me to recover my strength. We will kill our way in together. They're probably prepared, but it doesn't matter. The celestial pool can only hold 3 people at most. I see that there's no one around a celestial pool. They might only have 3 people. We have so many experts of the Immortal Court. Why would we be afraid of these mere clowns? 3 people?" The red-robed man then reacted. He anxiously looked down and asked, "Where's Master Qi? I don't see him. Most likely, he met with misfortune. Damn it. Don't worry. These evil people will definitely receive the punishment they deserve. The laws of the Immortal Court are not allowed to be challenged by anyone," the armored general said solemnly, then took out a pill and stuffed it into his mouth. The rainbow light around the celestial pool was still extremely dense, unlike Shangguan Meiyang's, which did not dissipate for a long time. Shangguan Meiyang was infatuated. She stared at the rainbow light, only to see that within the rainbow light, there seemed to be a fairy-like figure dancing gracefully. The figure was graceful and beautiful. The rainbow silk swayed along with it, causing people to be intoxicated. Gradually, the figure sank into the water of the celestial pool, transforming into a picture of a beauty bathing, while Su Qing, who was below, had already relaxed her entire body and slowly stood up, but she did not open her eyes, as though she was being pulled by something. The figure gradually entered her body and quickly disappeared without a trace. The water of the celestial pool gradually sank, as though all of it had entered Su Qing'er's body. Her skin became more and more white, and her appearance became more and more beautiful. Shangguan Mei Yang's eyes became blurry. Looking at Su Qing'er's beautiful face, Shangguan Mei Yang actually felt a sense of shame. Half of the pool water had already completely entered Su Qing'er's body, but she still did not wake up. Instead, she quietly curled up at the bottom of the pool like a baby. Her body was still glowing, and her entire body was like a gem. Crack. At this moment, a terrible cracking sound suddenly came from the tunnel wall. Shangguan Mei Yang, who was still intoxicated by Qing'er's beauty, tensed up. She immediately turned to look, only to see that a large hole had been blasted open in the tunnel wall, and a large amount of light beams flew out, directly landing at the side of the celestial pool. Very quickly, the light dispersed, and many figures appeared in front of Shangguan Mei Yang. All of them were dressed in armor, all of them holding on to battle blades. The immortal qi was dense. They squeezed in and immediately filled the place. There were a large number of immortals flying in the sky. Even the entrance of the tunnel was blocked by a large number of immortals. Seeing that, Shangguan Mei Yang's face turned white. She immediately hugged the sword sheath on the ground. One blade after another was pointed at her. Cold light overflowed in all directions. Give up resisting. The armored general stared at the surrounded Shangguan Mei Yang and said indifferently. Chapter 11:26. Facing the heavy encirclement, Shangguan Mei Yang's small face was filled with hesitation. She secretly clenched her teeth and looked at the immortal pond. Su Qing'er was still lying there quietly, as though he was asleep, and the other half of the pool was pitch black and chaotic, but Su Yun's figure could not be seen for a long time. What should I do now? Fight to the death? But with my strength, can I really fight against these people? These are all people from the immortal court. Can I really do it? Shangguan Mei Yang thought uneasily. She carefully sized up the people around her. Almost all the cold knives were aimed at her. She was surrounded so tightly that not even a fly could fly in. What to do? What to do? What to do? Shangguan Mei Yang became more and more anxious. In the current situation, she could not even protect herself, much less protect Su Yun and Su Qing'er who were in the pond. Escape? No. For me, Qing'er was willing to risk her life to save me. As a master, how can I abandon my own disciple and escape? Take him down. The armored general didn't seem to want to waste any more time. He raised his hand and let out a low shout. Understood. The two people at the side immediately shouted, and Xian directly walked toward Shangguan Mei Yang. Both of their left hands were emitting light, and they planned to directly seal Shangguan Mei Yang's immortal qi, while the other hand's blade had already been replaced with a chain, and they wanted to tie it up. Seeing that, Shangguan Mei Yang gritted her teeth. She could not hold it in any longer and directly charged her immortal qi towards the two of them. There was no time to consider, nor was there any room for choice. Bang! Immortal qi exploded from her palm, catching the two immortals off guard. Furthermore, Shangguan Mei Yang's movements were extremely fast, and the two of them were directly struck in the chest. The seemingly soft immortal qi actually had astonishing power, directly tearing their chests apart. The two of them were sent flying, knocking into many people, and after spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood, they actually fainted. Seeing that, Shangguan Mei Yang was stunned. She had never thought that she could possess such terrifying power, let alone that she could defeat an expert of the immortal court with a single palm strike. Today, he had done it. He had done something that should have been impossible. Was this the power of the celestial pool? Was this the benefit that the celestial pool brought to immortals? No wonder countless immortals would go crazy over it. No wonder the immortal court, which had always been known for its immortal rules, would do such despicable things. Who would have thought that this celestial pool could actually allow a person to be completely reborn? Shangguan Mei Yang sighed her heart, but this was not the time to sigh, because the moment she resisted, the armored general also moved. He was like a gust of wind, Instantly moving over, with lightning speed, he directly slashed toward Shangguan Mei Yang's neck. Using one hand as a blade, he directly slashed over. The immortal energy on the hand blade actually formed a strange, long formation and fiercely slashed over. The attack was extremely sharp, but Shangguan Mei Yang, who had received the blessings of the Celestial Pond, felt that the attack was extremely slow in her eyes and could be considered as a move that she could react to. She anxiously retreated, dodging the terrifying attack, and at the same time sent a palm strike towards the armored general. But the moment her white palm struck the armored general's chest, she was actually directly sent flying, falling into the celestial pond behind her. Her entire body trembled, as though the palm strike just now had landed on her own body. Shangguan Mei Yang's eyes widened as she looked at the armor on the armored general in disbelief. She could clearly feel that when she had sent her power towards him, the armor had sent her power back in her body when it passed through the armor. Could it be that this armor could return the enemy's attack? If that was the case, how could she defeat this existence? Shangguan Mei Yang coughed. A trace of blood leaked out from the corner of her mouth. Her body swayed as she stood up, feeling dizzy. Although the Celestial Pond had raised her cultivation by a terrifying amount, it still required a process. No matter who it was, after suddenly obtaining such a large amount of wealth, they would enter a period of confusion, not knowing how to use it. The current Shangguan Mei Yang was like that. The armored general snorted and said indifferently, "Even if you obtain the power of the Celestial Pond, so what? You can't change your ending. Take them all down." "Yes, sir." Everyone responded and then rushed forward, directly pressing towards Shangguan Mei Yang. The immortal qi sealed off all of her escape routes, and there were no gaps in the surroundings. Everyone raised their blades, and the blades were directly aimed at Shangguan Mei Yang's hands and feet. From the looks of it, they were preparing to cut off all of Shangguan Mei Yang's limbs and completely cripple her ability to resist. Seeing that, Shangguan Mei Yang immediately prepared to retaliate, but before she could do so, her body suddenly suffered a series of heavy blows, and she fell to the ground once again, spitting out blood. With a look, it was the red-robed man who was activating an immortal technique. The immortal technique that this person was using was actually soundless and extremely difficult to catch. If one did not predict the trajectory in advance, they would not even know that his attack had arrived. After the red-robed man's attack landed, he immediately activated his technique again. With a wave of his hand, the immortal qi in his body gathered in his palm, and after driving, a series of vacuum immortal qi smashed towards Shangguan Mei Yang. Shangguan Mei Yang's expression became extremely ugly. She anxiously activated the immortal qi in her body to block. Dong 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 dong. The wall of immortal qi continued to shake, causing Shangguan Mei Yang's face to turn pale white. She felt the immortal qi in her body becoming extremely turbulent, as though she was in a raging storm, unable to calm down. How could this be? Shangguan Mei Yang clenched her teeth. So just then, a large number of blades came from the side, fiercely rushing towards Shangguan Mei Yang. Clang, 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 clang. Clang, the blade fiercely smashed onto Shangguan Mei Yang's wall of immortal qi, causing the wall to tremble and become weaker. Shangguan Mei Yang's small face became even paler, and her pink hair also became dim and lifeless. Her arms swayed lightly, and the immortal qi that leaked out from her palms became thinner and thinner. She seemed to be unable to hold on any longer, and sweat dripped down her forehead. Every single immortal court soldier present had the strength of a fifth-stage spirit profound immortal, and if they were to be placed outside, they would all be existences of a sect leader. But now, they had joined hands to deal with Shangguan Mei Yang, and the pressure was unimaginable. Gotcha! Finally, a long crack appeared on the wall of immortal qi. Shangguan Mei Yang could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood, as though she was an arrow at the end of its flight. She was originally an existence that had not even entered the spirit profound immortal realm, and with the grace of the immortal pool, she had such strength. It was already a miracle that she could hold on until now. And if she wanted to escape from here, it was basically impossible. It had to be known that the current Shangwan Mei Yang was still unarmed. The magic treasures that she had on her body in the past, as well as the magic treasures that Ao Wushuang had given her, were all useless in this situation. Are you still stubborn? The armored general snorted, and did not say anything else, because the current Shangwan Mei Yang could not hold on for much longer. As expected, in less than 10 breaths of time, Shangwan Mei Yang finally could not hold on any longer. The cracks on the wall of immortal qi increased and gradually broke, until finally, with a clang sound, it directly shattered into pieces. Shangwan Mei Yang reacted quickly. In the instant that it shattered, she flipped to the side, and the blade that was pressing down on the wall of immortal qi directly smashed downwards. In an instant, the entire immortal pool was filled with an extremely terrifying destructive qi, and the place where Shangwan Mei Yang was smashed into a pit. Su Qing'er, who was lying on the ground, was also affected. Her body was sent flying and fell not far away. Seeing that, Shangwan Mei Yang immediately became anxious and immediately rushed over to hug Su Qing'er. Shangwan Mei Yang nervously checked Su Qing'er's body, and seeing that there were no injuries, she heaved a sigh of relief. But not long after she heaved a sigh of relief, she suddenly raised her head and saw that the immortal court people were rushing over again. And at the same time, the immortal court people behind Shangwan Mei Yang also rushed over, surrounding her from the front and back, not giving Shangwan Mei Yang any leeway. She looked around, took a deep breath, and felt extremely tired. She really wanted to stand up and resist, but she was powerless. After all, she had just come out of the immortal pool, and everything was still unstable. Adding that there were many enemies, she was powerless to turn the situation around. I'm sorry, Qing. Master has already tried his best. Although I am unwilling, this is the reality. She hugged Su Qing'er tightly. Her eyes were filled with helplessness and unwillingness. The immortal court experts had already rushed over, all of them pointing their blades at each other, without the slightest bit of mercy. Shangwan Mei Yang closed her eyes. She knew that she had already become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. And in that moment of life and death, Su Qing'er, who was tightly hugged by her, suddenly released a circle of multicolored light. The multicolored light instantly enveloped the two of them. The light suddenly turned into threads, quickly wrapping around the two of them. And in a short while, the two of them actually turned into a gigantic cocoon, tightly wrapped up. The surrounding blades of the immortal court people were directly blocked by the cocoon, unable to break it at all. Seeing that, the armored general and the red-robed man were stunned. What's going on? I heard that every time the guardian beast outside was defeated, it would undergo a transformation, and after the transformation, its strength would become even more astonishing. From the looks of it, could it be that they are also going to transform? The red-robed man pondered. Transformation? If it shouldn't be, but it must have something to do with the immortal pool. The armored general said coldly. But I don't care about that. Even if they become cocoons, they won't be able to escape. All of you attack. Break this cocoon for me. Yes, master. Everyone shouted and attacked the cocoon in unison. But right at that moment, the incomparably pitch-black celestial pool water at the side suddenly emitted a gurgling sound. Everyone looked towards the source of the sound and discovered that the pitch-black water was actually emitting a large number of bubbles. Vaguely, they seemed to be able to hear some sort of sound coming from the bottom of the water. Chapter 11:27. The armored general's expression changed slightly. He lifted his heavy greatsword and walked towards the pool of water. Hong Yin, you said that the celestial pool can only contain 3 people, right? Yes, my lord. The red-robed man quickly cupped his fists and said. The 2 women came out from the celestial pool. Then, what about the 3rd person? Is he still at the bottom of the pool? Most likely. But why is this half of the pool still pitch black? The red-robed man moved closer carefully and sniffed. He frowned and said, There's no devil chi? This pool doesn't seem to be contaminated by devil chi. It said that Chi-Jin was attacked by a devil. Logically speaking, the person at the bottom of the pool should be a devil. Why is it like this? Don't tell me you think that we can't even tell the difference between a devil and a human? The armored general harumphed coldly. No, my lord, that's not what I meant. It's just say no more. I can sense a small amount of Chi-Jin's aura in the surroundings, but I can't find any trace of him. It's highly possible that Chi-Jin is already dead, and it's the doing of the person at the bottom of the pool. How can such a person not be a devil? It doesn't matter whether he's a devil or not. What's important is that Chi-Jin was killed by him. This alone is enough to kill him. After saying that, the armored general waved his hand and said, "Split into 2 groups. One group will attack the cocoon and drag out the 2 women. The other group will go into the pool and fish them out. These 3 people must be brought back to the immortal court and await the punishment of the lords of the immortal court." "Yes, my lord." The surrounding experts of the immortal court responded and quickly split into 2 groups. One group continued to attack the cocoon fiercely, while the other group went straight to the celestial pool. Seeing that, the red-robed man opened his mouth but didn't say anything. One of them cast a spell in advance. He accumulated a blazing flame in his palm and smashed it towards the pitch-black pool, intending to melt the pool. But the flames seemed to be incomparably hot and terrifying, but when they smashed into the pool water, they instantly dissipated, no longer showing any heat. Seeing this, the others immediately joined hands and released more flames. A fireball that was even hotter and more terrifying than the previous one appeared. With everyone's combined strength, it smashed towards the celestial pond. Chi! An ear-piercing noise rang out. The pitch-black celestial pond water was still bubbling, but it didn't drop at all. There weren't any ripples either. It was as if it wasn't flames that fell, but sand that fell into the pond, whether it was fire, earth, or even other bizarre spells bombarding the pool. The pool still didn't change. Are you all idiots? What kind of immortal technique is he using? I want you to go down and fish him out. The armored general's face turned ugly as he shouted at the top of his lungs. When the experts of the immortal court heard this, they looked at each other and didn't dare to go down. What are you waiting for? Don't tell me you want me to personally go into the water? The armored general flew into a rage and roared furiously. Seeing this, the red-robed man hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Calm down, my lord. There's a reason why they don't dare to go down. It's said that the celestial pond can only accommodate 3 people. If more people enter, they'll suffer the backlash of the celestial pond. There's only 1 person in the pond now. What are you afraid of? But stop nagging. At most, we'll just send 2 people down." The armored general was completely impatient. He pointed at the 2 experts of the immortal court and said, "You go down. Hurry." "Yes, general." The 2 experts of the immortal court didn't dare to disobey and immediately jumped into the pond. Plop! The bubbling, pitch-black pond water splashed, and the 2 of them dived into it. But as soon as the 2 of them landed, the water in the pool immediately churned and a large number of ripples spread out. But not long after, the ripples calmed down and the water in the pool bubbled again. Then there was no other movement. Everything was as it had been in the beginning. Seeing this, everyone on the shore widened their eyes as they stared at this strange scene in astonishment. "Chun Sheng, Wu Xin. Can you hear me?" An expert of the immortal court shouted towards the pond with immortal chi. But after shouting a few times, he didn't hear any reply from the 2 who dived into the pond. Everyone on the shore sensed the possibility of the 2, and their expressions changed. The people in the pond should still be enduring the changes of the celestial pond water. Usually, if they really dived into the pond, they would be fished out immediately. But the pond water was so strange, and that person might have already completed his transformation or set up some tricks. If the 2 who dived into the pond didn't move, they must have encountered something unexpected. I'm afraid they're in trouble, the red-robed man said solemnly. No one said a word. The armored general was getting angrier. He gritted his teeth, and his eyes were filled with uncontrollable anger. He roared, "Bastard! Bastard! So many people. Can't you even take down a little devil? Bastard. With that, he took a few steps forward and stared at the pitch-black pond water. His hands quickly formed a seal, and a mysterious, immortal chi floated between his palms. Very quickly, the immortal chi started to condense into a gigantic, white, immortal sword, which quickly spiraled between his palms. With a loud shout, the immortal sword directly slashed towards the pond water. Boom! In an instant, the water in the pool exploded. It was directly split into two by this mystical immortal sword. The water split to the left and right as if someone had forcefully pushed it apart. The person in the pool appeared in front of everyone. It was a man draped in a pitch-black cloak. The man's face was abnormally pale, and the cloak on his body seemed extremely thin, as if it would tear at any moment. Apart from the cloak, there was nothing else on him. At this moment, he was sitting cross-legged at the bottom of the pond with his eyes closed, as if he was meditating. It was unknown if he was aware of what was happening outside. It's this person. The armored general opened his eyes wide and stared at Su Yun, who was below him, and shouted, "Go! All of you attack! Capture this person! Hurry up and capture this person!" Seeing that the armored general actually had the ability, the morale of the immortals on the shore was greatly boosted. After hearing the order, they all jumped into the pond in unison. Whoosh! A large number of immortals rushed into the pond and directly attacked Su Yun. Several iron chains also followed, and from the looks of it, they wanted to tie Su Yun up. However, after the dozens of immortals rushed into the pool, the pitch-black water that had been split apart quickly merged back together. Not only that, a large amount of water that was like a demon's claw appeared in the pond water, directly grabbing onto the immortals that were extremely close and directly dragging them in. Plop, 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 plop. These people from the immortal court had no time to defend themselves and were directly dragged in. What's going on? Help! Save me! What is this? What is this? Let me go! Let me go! Save! Save me! These people continued to struggle in the immortal pond, their mouths letting out heart-wrenching screams. However, their screams did not last for long. One by one, they were dragged into the pond, and then they could no longer be seen. The pond water churned for a while, but very quickly, it returned to normal. Not long after, a large number of bubbles appeared on the surface of the pond, but not a single person could be seen. This time, even the armored general did not say a word. His eyes were wide open as he stared blankly at the pitch-black surface of the pond, unable to say a word for a long time. The immortal pond was extremely quiet. No one had ever seen such a strange scene before. The people from the immortal court who had entered the pond were all experts at the 5th stage of the spirit profound immortal realm and above. Even spirit god. Shouldn't it be so easy to kill so many experts at the 5th stage of the spirit profound immortal realm and above? What was going on? This guy shouldn't have completed the transformation of the immortal pond yet. Why would such a phenomenon occur? Everyone felt that their breaths were about to tighten. The red-robed man was probably the first to react. He hurriedly walked in front of the armored general and said in a low voice, "Master, this person is not ordinary. I'm afraid we can't deal with him. It's better to leave quickly and set up a defense outside. Also, inform the masters above and ask them to send more experts over to help." Help? Hearing that, the armored general gritted his teeth and said angrily, "In order to obtain this opportunity to render meritorious service, I specially asked the masters for permission and brought all of my subordinates out. But in exchange, this is the result? How can I be willing? But things have indeed exceeded our imagination. If we continue to be entangled like this, who knows what kind of accident will happen? We are already at our wits' end." The red-robed man said helplessly, "It's just a devil cultivator. What do you mean by there's nothing we can do?" The armored general gritted his teeth, obviously not wanting to give up. "Master, there's no need to say any more. If you're afraid, then you can leave first." This right at this moment, the bubbling pitch-black water suddenly emitted a series of strange sounds. The two of them looked in the direction of the sound, only to see that the pitch-black water was slowly descending, as if it was being drawn out by someone. Seeing this scene, all the surrounding immortals pointed their blades at the immortal pond. The armored general also gripped his thick sword tightly, as if he was facing a great enemy. The water in the pool dropped lower and lower, becoming less and less, and finally completely dissipated, completely absorbed by the person sitting at the bottom of the pool. When the last drop of water was absorbed by that person, the person sitting cross-legged also moved. He opened his eyes and looked at the countless people from the immortal court standing beside the immortal pond. His dry mouth revealed a sinister smile. Chapter 1128. He stretched lazily and glanced at the people around him. With a sinister smile, he slowly stood up. The seemingly thin cloak on his body suddenly thickened, directly covering his pale face. His skin was extremely white, almost without a trace of blood. When he stood up, a violent whirlwind suddenly spun around him, rushing upwards with an astonishing force, passing through the barrier and straight into the clouds. He was immediately enveloped by a pitch-black aura. This was not devil chi, but it was extremely magical. The aura was cold and gloomy, and there was an indescribable shivering feeling. It was as if anyone who got close to this aura would be scared out of their wits. The armored general's eyes widened as he looked at the figure that was surrounded by the pitch-black aura. He could feel that this guy was different from the two women from before. With his strength, he could not see through him at all. Furthermore, his aura was completely different from the aura of the celestial pool. The celestial pool was supposed to be a mystical and sacred thing, but why would such a filthy existence appear in the celestial pool this time? The whirlwind that soared into the sky was not like before. It only lasted for a short period of time before it directly drilled into the person's body and disappeared. When he looked at the person again, his skin became even whiter, but his eyes were incomparably black. Strangely, they were like two bottomless wells. So many people, are they all from the Immortal Court? The Immortal Court's actions this time are not small. They actually sent so many people over. Not bad, not bad. Su Yun raised his sinister smile and directly walked out of the celestial pool. Seeing that the person walked out of the celestial pool fearlessly, the people of the Immortal Court on the shore all retreated, looking at the person who came ashore with a fearful expression. They held onto their long blades tightly and activated their immortal chi. A large number of scrolls and spells had already locked onto the person who walked up. The armored general and the red-robed man looked at each other. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. Halt! Seeing that Su Yun had come ashore and was walking towards him, the armored general immediately shouted. However, his words did not have the slightest effect. Su Yun acted as if he did not hear it and continued to walk forward. His pitch-black eyes stared straight at the armored general. At this moment, he felt that it was not a pair of eyes, but a pair of terrifying Tao Ye's mouth, as if it wanted to swallow him whole. I told you to stop. Didn't you hear? Seeing that the fellow did not listen to his advice, the armored general's anger soared. He immediately raised his heavy sword and slashed towards Su Yun. The heavy sword carried a terrifying pressure that felt like the sky was collapsing, causing one's soul to shatter. The surrounding people of the Immortal Court couldn't withstand the power of this strike, and retreated one after another. The red-robed man was shocked as he looked at the armored general's attack. Although he did not fully understand the situation, he could tell that the armored general had hurriedly launched this attack in a moment of desperation. He panicked. The red-robed man was shocked. He could tell what the armored general was thinking. After all, the armored general had followed him for quite some time. How could he not know what was going on? However, the red-robed man did not blame the armored general for his reaction. Even if it was anyone else, they would most likely panic in such a situation. The reason for that was because the person in front of him was simply too strange. The pitch-black aura that floated around him was not devil chi at all. Furthermore, his own immortal chi was unable to detect it at all. Was this guy really the devil that they had talked about earlier? Could it be that they were mistaken? Perhaps this fellow was not a demonic cultivator at all, but those fellows had made a mistake. As the thick sword smashed towards Su Yun, the red-robed man was still letting his imagination run wild. But before he could finish his thoughts, the thick sword had already landed on Su Yun's body. Dong! It was a very oppressive sound. It was as if an extremely vigorous and powerful fist had ruthlessly smashed into an abnormally thick wall. However, the fist did not shatter the wall. In fact, it did not even create a single crack. It was as if the power of the fist had been injected into the wall, like a stone sinking into the sea, disappearing without a trace. The sword had smashed into Su Yun's right shoulder. But the terrifying sharp sword had smashed into his shoulder, but it did not cut into his shoulder at all. The slender and sharp blade seemed to be fake. It was unable to cut into Su Yun's shoulder at all, not to mention cutting off even a little bit of skin. Perhaps it could not even cut through the cloak that covered Su Yun's body. What sword is this? Su Yun turned his head and reached out to caress the huge and heavy sword. Then he stretched out a finger and flicked the sword. Clang! The ear-splitting sound of the weapon exploded. A destructive force pierced through the huge, thick sword. The armored general realized that his arm was almost broken in an instant, and the sword uncontrollably flew towards the crowd of Immortal Court. The space in this place was already narrow, and the tunnel was filled with people of the Immortal Court. It was too late for them to evacuate. In an instant, the heavy sword cut a group of people in half like harvesting wheat. Their cultivation base, defense, physical strength, and magic treasures were almost non-existent. Driven by the force, the heavy sword cut them apart as if it was cutting through an uninhabited place. Blood splattered everywhere. The people from the Immortal Court who were cut down immediately fell to the ground. The already dry celestial pond was immediately filled with a large amount of blood. Seeing this scene, the red-robed man and the armored general were scared out of their wits. They stared at Su Yun, only to see that Su Yun's hand had turned into a pitch-black claw. The claw was shaped like a devil's claw. It was bold and powerful, and its back was covered with pitch-black scales. The 5 claws were long and slender, and a large amount of strange gas spiraled around his 5 claws like spirits. What is this thing? Is he a devil cultivator? Is he a devil cultivator? The armored general roared in anger. The people in the tunnel were shocked when they saw this scene. They could not believe what they saw. If even the armored general couldn't stop this man, how could they possibly take him down with just their own strength? He has already been completely transformed by the celestial pond. He has already reached the peak of his power. We can no longer be his enemy. We can no longer be his opponent. Go, go. The red-robed man, finally he saw the situation clearly. His face was extremely ugly as he shouted at the top of his lungs. The people from the Immortal Court outside heard him and hurriedly scattered. They did not dare to go forward. The armored general stared blankly at Su Yun, who was walking towards him step by step. Both of his legs felt weak, and at that moment, he had already lost his will to fight. For some reason, although the aura emitted by the person in front of him was not shocking, he felt an inexplicable fear. This fear came directly from the bottom of his heart. You, who are you? Finally, the armored general could not bear the fear anymore. He clenched his teeth and asked, "Why do you care who I am?" Su Yun chuckled and immediately extended his hand, grabbing towards his face. Howling Wolf God Fist. The armored general anxiously threw out a punch. The immortal chi exploded, but the punch was blocked by Su Yun's palm. Bada! His fist was wrapped. The armored general was startled for a moment. He did not even see Su Yun's movements clearly. Not only was his every move extremely fast, it did not cause the immortal chi in the air to vibrate, causing people to not even be able to feel it. Suddenly, a heart-wrenching pain came from his fist. Upon closer inspection, his left fist had also been crushed by Su Yun. "What are you resisting?" Su Yun laughed and immediately grabbed the armored general's head and lifted him over. The armored general wanted to struggle, but at the moment, both of his hands were crippled, and his immortal chi was useless against Su Yun. Struggling was useless. He looked at Su Yun in front of him in fear. He wanted to say something, but no sound came out. Then, he felt Su Yun's palm start to exert force. The armored general's body trembled violently. He shook his head frantically, but he could not break free from the iron hand that was grabbing his head Finally, puff! The armored general's head was crushed like a watermelon. Red and white liquid mixed together, splattering all over the black-robed man's body. He still had that evil smile on his face, kicked the corpse into the immortal pool, and then rushed towards the people of the immortal court who were preparing to leave. The people of the immortal court were like headless flies, scurrying everywhere. Su Yun was like a hungry wolf pouncing into a flock of sheep. He started to kill them in a frenzy. He did not use any weapons. It was as if his personality had changed. He laughed loudly while killing the people of the immortal court. The people of the immortal court could not escape in time. They were grabbed by Su Yun, torn apart, and thrown into the immortal pool. Run, run. When the people of the immortal court saw the armored general being killed, they knew that they could not deal with the person in front of them. They could only run away. The red-robed man had no time to care about others. He mixed into the crowd and crazily squeezed his way out. The tunnel was not big, but it was squeezed together by the people of the immortal court. "Why are you running? Aren't you here to catch me?" Su Yun snorted. He suddenly leaped, turned into a hair-like black light, and flew into the tunnel, passing through the crowd, and appeared outside the tunnel. He immediately grabbed a few people of the immortal court outside, used all his power, and threw them into the tunnel. Those people from the immortal court didn't even have time to react. They didn't even see when Su Yun appeared before they were grabbed by him and thrown into the tunnel. The terrifying power made them unable to use their immortal chi to resist, but when they crashed into the tunnel, the power spread out, and the bodies of those who were hit were instantly shattered. More than 10 people of the immortal court were killed on the spot. Their bodies exploded and blood splattered all over the tunnel. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.